scene it is. We welcome you from Wrigley Field, Chicago, the legendary home of the Chicago Cubs, and a passionate fan base ready for their first postseason in 7 years. Our coverage of the 2015 National League Division Series on TBS is presented by T-Mobile. This series all tied in one apiece. The Cubs now have the home field advantage versus their longtime rivals, the St. Louis Cardinals. Hi, everybody. We welcome you from the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. Brian Anderson, Dennis Eckersley, and Joe Simpson. Great to have you with us here tonight. The Chicago Cubs stole away the home field with that Game 2 win, Dennis, and now they have home field, and they have maybe the best weapon in the postseason on the mound in Jake Arrieta.
How do you stop the hottest pitcher on the planet? The numbers are through the roof the last 4 months of the season. Historic. And then you see the filthy stuff that he's got. This guy, high velocity, 95 and up. He's got breaking balls that are just swing and miss, wipeout breaking balls, command of everything. His confidence is sky high, through the roof. This guy may be unstoppable, Brian.
Well, and the only question was, how would he pitch in the postseason? He certainly answered that with that wild card complete game shutout. All right, Joe, the Cardinals, they have been Dragon Slayers before. They've got Michael Wacha on the mound tonight, but they've had a lot of success matching up against some of the game's best pitchers.
You can call these guys ace kickers because they have knocked out some aces in the postseason the last 4 years. Names like Halladay, Bumgarner, Kane. The last 2 years they've beaten Clayton Kershaw. And oh, by the way, tonight they've got a guy on the mound in Michael Wacha, who was an all-star this year himself. He won 17 ball games. And just 2 years ago, he had an outstanding postseason. He threw a near no-hitter in the division series. He was the National League Championship Series MVP. He's been here, done this. He's not going to shy away from this either.
And a matchup of two tall Texans here tonight. Part of the story of this is the Wrigleyville experience, but also, even though it's October 12th, Matt Weiner, it feels like the middle of summer. The wind is blowing out tonight at Wrigley.
Absolutely, B.A. It is 75 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. And as the guy holding this microphone, I'm all but obligated to report it's a beautiful day for baseball, unless you're a hitter or perhaps a pitcher or possibly an outfielder. The shade at this 5 o'clock Central Time start is covering most of the infield, but the batter's eye remains bright here, tough on the batters. Meanwhile, the wind, notoriously fickle here at Wrigley Field, is blowing out and hard, about 20 miles per hour. Batting practice balls were flying out of here, and the players say to all fields. I spoke with Tommy Pham, the Cardinals center fielder, today. He spent about 53 innings in the outfield here at Wrigley this season, but admits he's never played here when it was blowing this hard.
Oh, man, this is set up for a beautiful night at Wrigley, huh? How about it? Game 3, Cubs-Cardinals, coming up next on TBS. Wrigley Field, Chicago, and we are just about ready for tonight's first pitch, Game 3 of this National League Division Series. Gorgeous night, 75 degrees. The winds could be a factor, not just with the balls in the air for the hitter, but also for the defenders tonight. Keep an eye on that throughout this evening. Cardinals won the opener in a shutout for nothing. The Cubs came back and won Game 2 6-3, and the T-Mobile batting order for the St. Louis Cardinals is turned in by Mike Matheny. A lot of the regular names there that we've seen in the first two games, but Tommy Pham gets the start today. Will play center field, and Mike Matheny telling us Pham is in there because Arrieta is on the mound, and Pham has already had one moment in this postseason. That was a pinch hit home run in Game 1. And it's going to be Jake Arrieta on the mound. He's coming off a complete game shutout with 11 strikeouts in the wild card game against the Pirates.
This is the man, saying the least. I'll tell you, this guy is the hottest pitcher on the planet. Nobody can argue that. The numbers go on and on. We'll get on in the numbers as we get to this game. But you see what he's done this year. Possibly the Cy Young Award winner. I mean, this guy's got gas. He's got a breaking ball, wipeout breaking ball, a little funky deception, throws across his body. But this guy is the man.
And his catcher tonight will be Miguel Montero. They have worked together all year long. His infield defense backed him up beautifully in Pittsburgh when he needed a couple of double play balls. Addison Russell, Starlin Castro turned it for him. The outfield this afternoon has Schwarber in left, and Soler, after his big game in Game 2, is in right. Dexter Fowler, as usual, in center field.
Soler with a big 2-run home run in Game 2 also had a double. All right, all the pieces in place. Mike Winters will call the balls and strikes. The home plate umpire, he says go. We play ball. Game 3 of the NLDS is underway. And it starts with strike one. This crowd is a live wire crowd, and they have been in the Wrigleyville area for about 4 hours now leading up to this 5 o'clock local start time. And again, another game tomorrow, Game 4, as Carpenter, a high fly ball. Soler, as if he was calling off Starlin Castro, makes the catch for the out. I mean, the wind's blowing, but not that hard.
I'll tell you what, it's scary. I don't care if you're the man, the greatest pitcher on the planet, but the wind's blowing out here, you could be in trouble. It's hard to throw a shutout here.
I'm sure Arrieta appreciated that first move by Soler. I got this, no problem. There you see the Chevrolet pitch tracks and the breakdown of stuff for Jake Arrieta. And his stuff is, in this particular window, as good as it gets in all of Major League Baseball right now.
And he hit 97 in that game, that wild card game at Pittsburgh. His fastball will sit 93 to 97 typically.
Facing Stephen Piscotty. Piscotty's had a big moment already in this postseason. That was Game 1 as well, in that 4-0 St. Louis shutout win over the Cubs. Piscotty hit a 2-run home run in the 8th inning of that game. And Piscotty fouls that one away, and there's that slider that you're talking about, Eck. Now, he calls all of these breaking balls his slider, but they come at you in all kinds of different velocities and angles.
He could throw it harder. He could throw one over 90, and you see that one 88.
And the 1-2 pitch. Down he goes. Arrieta strikes out Piscotty for out number 2.
Boy, he is feeling it already. I mean, what a way to get off to a good start. A slider before that, and then he paints. He dots the outside corner with some cheese. This guy, I'll tell you what, there's so many words to talk about. Is he electric? Is he filthy? I don't know. He's in another world right now.
And he works from the third base side of the rubber and closes. Looks like he's going to throw across his body. Very tough to pick the ball up.
Now facing Matt Holliday and a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. This is for ball 1. Holliday with an RBI in Game 1 of this NLDS. He drove in the first run of the series. And Holliday's up there swinging. Now, Arrieta has faced the Cardinals a number of occasions this year, and typically when you face Arrieta, especially for those teams in the division that know him well, you try to get on him early. You be very aggressive. That is also the reason Arrieta is coming off an historic second half of pitching, because the pitch count is typically low and he can power through a lineup.
It's amazing. He talked about how he goes at it. He goes like 90%, and if he wants to, he can put it to another gear. All the great pitchers have that, but his numbers are ridiculous. I mean, everything has gone just his way with just electric stuff. You see Holiday bailing a little bit.
And they say he's able to check his swing there. First base umpire is Mark Carlson. Let's take a look.
I mean, he's looking fastball, all of a sudden sees spin and wants to get out of the way. He did hold up.
Yeah, he had to be a pretty strong guy to stop that.
And a 3-1 pitch, and Holiday lines one, left field foul into these seats. Good catch up there by a Cubs fan.
I think you got to be aggressive, Brian and Dennis, against a guy like this. If you sit back and wait for him to walk you, you're going to have a short day walking back to the dugout. You got to try to get on him in the first pitch or two.
You got to look fastball. You just hope you get a count that you can be guaranteed a fastball.
Got him. What a start. Jake Arrieta, 12 pitches, 2 strikeouts. Cardinals go 1-2-3 against Arrieta. A couple of strikeouts for Big Jake. Now the Chicago Cubs. And a lineup turned in by manager Joe Madden. Like Matheny, he'll be up for the manager of the year this season in the National League. And Kyle Schwarber is in the lineup today, along with Soler. That gives the Cubs 4 rookies in their starting lineup, matching up against Michael Wacha.
You can't disrespect Michael Wacha. You talk about the year that he had, 17-7. Doesn't compare to Arrieta, but this kid's got great stuff. Right over the top, fastball, changeup, curveball.
And Wacha facing Dexter Fowler, the switch-hitting center fielder. Strike one from Wacha. A National League All-Star this year. Wacha making the All-Star team for the first year, but had a very poor month of September, and that's why there's a little bit of anxiety moving into this game 3 tonight, especially matching up against one of the game's best in Jake Arrieta.
But because of his size, he's 6'6", PA. Mike Matheny was talking about his leverage and how he can throw downhill, and if he will sit at the bottom of the zone, he'll have a good day.
misses high, and Fowler has worked the count in his favor at 3-1. He's the fourth-year skipper of the Cardinals. In all 4 years he has been a manager, the Cardinals have made it to the postseason. It's never been done for a first-year or first-time manager. And now Fowler sends one into right field, wind blowing out that way, and that ends up all the way at the track for Jason Hayward, out number 1.
And it is a good Cardinals defense tonight. They've got Stephen Piscotty at first base. Yadi Molina, third straight start in this series after suffering through a slightly torn thumb ligament. There's Piscotty at first, big 6'5" first baseman. Colton Wong had his moments in St. Louis, but he can still range left or right to knock down a lot of balls. Pham in center, outstanding. Go get him, good arm.
Here's Jorge Soler, who earned his way into this Game 3 lineup with his performance in Game 2. And as a matter of fact, Joe Maddon said it was what he did on the bases in Game 1 that allowed him to think Soler is fully connected into this postseason right now. And it didn't look like much at the time, guys, but it was a pinch hit walk, and he went first to third on a base hit. And at that moment, Maddon said, I think Soler is back where we need him. He's missed 2 months of the regular season with injuries.
I've been impressed with the fact that he hasn't swung out of the strike zone. He's been so patient on base every time last game, and we know he can leave. And I'll tell you what, every ball that goes in the air, I think is gone.
Me too. I thought the first one was.
And Soler taking all the way. Waka in there with a 96-mile-an-hour fastball.
And in this wind, you can't pitch behind in the count all night. He's got to have to get ahead of the count.
Up and in. And the first base runner of the day, Jorge Soler, continues to impress. That is his 6th trip on base so far in this series. It's his 3rd walk. Pitch arsenal courtesy of Chevrolet for Michael Waka.
A few cutters in that fastball count right there. You see him when he first came up, it was just fastball changeup. You see the breakup ball a little bit. Kind of reverse splits. He's better against left-handers than he is against right-handers.
A man on for the Cubs. Here is Anthony Rizzo now. I beg your pardon, here's Chris Bryant now. Bryant and Rizzo have been a big story for the Cubs offensively because they have not hit at all. Bryant's 0 for 11 with 4 strikeouts. Got a couple of double plays in the postseason. And he and Rizzo are a combined 0 for 21 for Chicago. You can forget that. Bryant turns it around quickly. And Cubs fans are glad to see that. Bryant with a single to left, 2 on, 1 out. And the Cubs get something cranking early here against Waka.
You got to take advantage of Walker right now. Adrenaline's pumping. He had to throw a strike. That ball's up. That is a bullet by Chris Bryant. And that's a good sign for the Cubs. If he gets going and the next guy up, Cards are in trouble.
Guys, in that struggle in September for Waka, 24 innings pitched, he walked 18 batters. That's not like him, but we're already seeing some signs of some command problems here in the first.
He hasn't been out there in a while. He's got to be adrenaline flowing big time. Ball's up.
Rizzo takes a ball down and in. Waka's last start was against the Pirates on September 30th. To your point, Egg, giving up 6 earned runs in 4 innings. Those are the numbers for Rizzo. He's 0 for 10 in the postseason. 4 strikeouts. Postseason that began in Pittsburgh in the wild card game. And it's 2-0, and Yadier Molina will take the slow, calm walk to the mound, and Cubs fans are loving every minute of this.
Well, this is time to regroup right here.
Everybody pitching in on that trip to the mound to try to help Michael Waka calm down. He's just 24 years old, but a lot of postseason experience.
It was Waka World 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Beat Clayton Kershaw twice and was the MVP of the NLCS. His last pitch in the postseason, however, until tonight, was that famous Travis Ishikawa walk-off home run that sent the Giants to the World Series as Rizzo fouls that one off. 2 balls and a strike on the big Cubs slugger, Anthony Rizzo.
That was gutsy right there with 2-0 changeup. Kind of left it middle. He swung over the top.
Good call by Molina.
Great numbers against Waka. 10 for 22
career. Two young guns that you figure are going to be battling it out in this Central Division for many years. A little jam shot right to the shortstop Peralta, and Soler with a base running mistake, and a double play helps Walker and the Cardinals get out of a mess in the first.
One of the things that jumped out at me in that start in Pittsburgh was this hard-breaking ball. The release point, it's low. And from a hitter's standpoint, as hard as he throws, it's hard to pick that up as something other than a fastball. And when it dives like that, it's devastating. I mean, it is amazing down and in.
You know, it's funny. It's one thing, it's a right-handed hitter, pulling off and not swinging at that slider. But when you make left-handed hitters look that bad, it is nasty.
Arrieta will face a tough lefty starting this inning for the Cardinals. Jason Hayward back in the cleanup spot for Mike Matheny for the third consecutive game of the postseason. Hayward has actually good numbers against Jake Arrieta in his career. He is 6 for 18 against Arrieta. And in Arrieta's time as a Cub, Hayward is 6 for 16 against him. Arrieta began his career with the Baltimore Orioles. Was a 5th round draft pick in 07 by the O's. And they traded him here to Chicago as Hayward in the left field backing up on it. And that is over the head of Schwarber and into the ivy. And Schwarber goes crashing into the wall there as Jason Hayward continues his success against one of the game's best. That's a leadoff double for St. Louis.
Well, as we talked about in St. Louis, Jason likes the ball out away from him. He'd much prefer the ball middle away as opposed to middle in. They set up away, fastball ran away. That is really in his wheelhouse.
He hit that ball good, but you see Schwarber, he kind of was gliding, looking at that thing all the way. He did pull his glove up late. I don't think he had a chance. You have to be a burner to catch up with that.
Well, Jason Hayward is really swinging the bat well. He's hit 8 consecutive games, even going back into the regular season. And now Johnny Peralta at the plate. And a strike to Peralta to get the count started. Before we get too much deeper into this Cardinal inning here at the plate, the Cubs have Walker and the Cardinals on the ropes in the first inning, and a base running mistake by Soler quiets down this crowd going into the second. Peralta on the ground foul.
Yeah, the ball wasn't hit that hard. I'm not sure if he lost track of the outs because he broke right away on contact.
Yeah, it's one thing if that's a bullet. You know, you sort of get frozen. Right. But it was just a jam shot. He had time.
Cardinals are 2 for 8 runners in scoring position in the series.
No balls, 2 strikes on Peralta. Heavy hitting St. Louis shortstop. And in the dirt. It's Montero back there for the Cubs again. His second consecutive start. He'll be a big factor in this game with a lot of those Arrieta sliders ending up in the dirt. He's a good catcher. Good backstop who brings some offense as well.
Obviously, he's looking for a punch out right here.
Hayward, good speed at second. And Peralta fouls it off.
Dennis, you and I were talking about this coming up to the booth this afternoon about how this guy's had, Arrieta, so few tough innings, so few stressful innings. I wondered what it would be like in this setting if all of a sudden the Cardinals did put a run on the board or put him in a tough spot, how he would react.
Yeah, because he really hasn't been stretched. You know, everything's gone his way perfectly.
31 straight shutout innings.
I mean, please, how many innings do you think he's had to throw 20 pitches? Not very many. The fact of the matter is, what he punched out 11 against the Pirates on what, 113 pitches.
Right. See, no earned runs there. In 10 of his last 13 starts, he has not lost a game since the 25th of July when Cole Hamels and the Phillies no-hit the Chicago Cubs. Arrieta was the mound opponent that day of Hamels. And now Peralta's worked it into a 3-2 count. He's not biting on that breaking ball. Tommy Pham due next. This is the 5th matchup of the year for the Cardinals against Arrieta. Arrieta in 4 starts, 2-1 with a 2.42 earned run average, but none since July. And the payoff pitch stays alive.
Very good discipline on the part of Peralta not to offer those breaking balls away. Even though he'd like to hit the ball to the right side and get Hayward to third.
Hayward with a leadoff double. Knocked it over the head of Schwarber in left field. 8th pitch of the at-bat on the way. And Peralta on the ground. That is Bryant. And there is the first out of the inning for Jake Arrieta.
In a game like this, against a pitcher like this, that first run would be enormous for the Cardinals, especially for their confidence. And not to be able to manufacture, at least so far, that run by getting him to third base, that's a big knock.
It's got to be tough to hit a slider the other way. I mean, you know what I mean? A biting slider like Arrieta has. Everybody said, just hit the slider the other way. It's not that easy.
Now here is Tommy Pham now. Well, what a moment he had. His first postseason at bat was a pinch hit appearance in game 1, and he homered in that game. That gave the Cardinals a 2-0 lead in the 8th inning. Hit 5 home runs during the regular year. And drove in 18 runs. He gave him a nice lift. He was injured to start the season. After spending 9 years in the minor leagues. Had a chance to make the big league roster coming out of spring training, but then he had a quad injury. Mike Matheny was telling us he was the guy. He was going to be our 4th outfielder most likely.
And that he might have gotten here before this year had it not been for injuries along the way in his career.
One of the 3 major quad injuries that the Cardinals have suffered this year. Matt Adams is not on the postseason roster. He had a full quad tear and actually had to have surgery. Even though he came back at the end of the year, they didn't feel like he was quite ready to play for the postseason. There's Adams in the hoodie. And they went with Tommy Pham instead. Matt Holliday was the other who had a serious quad injury that put him on the disabled list twice. And that is the theme of the Cardinals this year. They have overcome a number of injuries and gotten great production from those coming up from their minor league system, like Pham. 3 balls, no strikes.
Amazing the patience they've had with that cutter. Peralta and now Pham.
Tommy Pham is Arrieta's 6th batter faced. He's already been into 3 3-ball counts.
Green light.
Gunning away.
You get a rookie swinging 3-0, I don't care. I mean, he's got confidence in this kid.
Matheny very confident in his group, and this is a team that has won a lot. They've dominated this division that they share with the Cubs. They've dominated the National League. It's been the Giants and the Cardinals over a long stretch. As Pham on the right side, that's Castro who will gobble it up. And there is out number 2. And on to play Jason Hayward over to third base. All right, it's time for Records and Milestones presented by Jim Beam. Drink smart. And in our Records and Milestones tonight, career postseason hits. Focus in on Yadier Molina. 90 career postseason hits. One more, and he'll become the active leader all by himself. His own teammate Albert Pujols in there. And no coincidence that there are 2 current Cardinals and a former Cardinal.
I wonder why. Does it win?
9 of their last 12 seasons they've been in the postseason. By the way, for more records and milestones, you can go to BleacherReport.com.
Rowdy's been jumping on the first pitch when he can.
I think he was looking breaking ball and threw a pass ball right by him.
If you've been with us through the series, you know the story. If you haven't, Yadier Molina was questionable whether he'd make this roster. He is dealing with an injured left thumb, ligament damage in that left thumb, his catching hand, and it is not just difficult to hit for him, but also to catch all of these games. And he toughs it out. He is wearing a contraption on that thumb to help keep him protected. Ball, Castro ranging over, tough hop, but he makes the play. And the slow running Molina, the inning is over. A leadoff double by Hayward. 3 ground ball outs after that. The upcoming schedule is brought to you by DirecTV. Call 1-800-DirecTV. Mets Dodgers coming up next. Starting to look more and more like we're going to have a couple of Game 5s in the American League as well. The Royals and Astros, they know they'll go to a Game 5 in Kansas City. Blue Jays and Rangers. Right now the Jays are up 8-1 in the bottom of the 7th. Tomorrow night, doubleheader on TBS. Cardinals, Cubs, and then Mets, Dodgers. Those will be Game 4s. Michael Wacha back on the mound. We start the bottom of the 2nd inning. Starlin Castro will lead off for Chicago. Shortstop turned second baseman. He'll be followed by Schwarber and then Addison Russell. And Wacha drops that curveball in there for a strike.
It is a beauty, right over the top.
Michael Wacha, at 24 years of age, a big part of one of the best pitching staffs in St. Louis baseball franchise history. Part of a starting pitching rotation that combined had a .299 earned run average. That was the best mark in the National League. And overall, a pitching staff that had the best ERA as Castro takes a ball and Wacha falls behind again. 3 balls and a strike.
Hasn't been real sharp at all. You see, no command. Luckily, get out that double play ball saved him.
And a hitter's count for Castro. A wave and a miss out of his helmet.
That's what makes this kid tough, you know. At any given time, he's going to throw a changeup. He threw Rizzo a 2-0 changeup, and then you see a changeup here. Comes out of his shoes a little bit.
Castro with 2 hits in Game 2. Little tapper back to the mound, and Wacha starting to write a bit of a comeback story early. Was down in the 1st inning with a couple of men on base. Got a double play, a line drive out that turned into 2 to end the inning. He's fought his way back from a few hitters' counts.
Well, this guy started the season 7-0, and he made the All-Star team. And at the All-Star break, he was 10-3 with a .293 ERA. He had a very good August, and as you said, Brian, a horrible September, one that actually caused them, you can call it skipping a start or moving him back in a start, but they tried to get him to reboot a little bit in early September.
Those numbers against the Cubs poor as well. But ERA over 6 as he misses to Kyle Schwarber.
I think there's an innings thing here too. He's never been in this a 200 inning kid. Not that anybody really else is nowadays. But last year he only made 19 starts. This year he made 30. So you wonder why the September was bad. I mean,
could have been some fatigue in there.
Shift is on for Schwarber. He takes a ball high, and again Wacha falling behind.
Which leads to another point about his fastball. He likes to establish it, but sometimes that fastball begins to fade a little bit at about the 45 pitch mark.
Yeah, Schwarber looks at a curveball in there for a strike. Schwarber is one of 4 rookies in the starting lineup for the Chicago Cubs. That has not happened since the 2007 season when the Arizona Diamondbacks had 4 rookies. And Schwarber into left center field. That ball's hit well. Schwarber will send one out. Kyle Schwarber with a solo shot. And the Cubs take the early lead in Game 3.
Before for a strike, and I think this is a changeup. Yeah, I think this is a changeup. He stays back on it, drives this ball the other way. Wrigley Field gapper. This ball finds the basket.
A new baby bull, and he's got power to all fields.
Here's Addison Russell, who asked for timeout but was not granted timeout, and that's going to be a called strike. Get it if you're a hitter. You got to wait for the umpire. So Mike Winter said, no, sir, too late. Wow, what a moment here for the Cubs. Kyle Schwarber has really swung the bat well. He was 2 for 3 and had a walk in game 1, had a pinch hit appearance in game 2, but this is looking like a prime time bat for the Chicago Cubs here down the stretch.
Including the Pittsburgh game, he's 5 for 8 with 2 doubles and 2 homers. He's got to work it.
Still has the home run of the postseason so far, that bomb that he hit into the Allegheny at PNC Park against the Pirates. Russell right up the pipe. And a foul pop. The wind is blowing that right back into play, and Molina makes a catch for the out. And the wind is coming off the grandstand, blowing out towards right center. Molina kind of gave up on that in the beginning.
You know, you see this pop up, everybody thinks this ball's in the seat. Look how long Molina takes to react to it. You see Montero doesn't really even get out of the way. It tells you how windy it is right here. When it gets up over the stadium, it comes back.
These flags right above us on the roof are just starched.
It's a good catch by Molina. And Matheny, a 4-time Gold Glove Award winning catcher, was yelling at his catcher that that ball was in play the whole time. Here's Montero with a swing and a miss.
He's yelling he's coming back.
2 outs in the inning now. And Miguel Montero, who incidentally was one of the 4 in the lineup for the Arizona Diamondbacks back in 2007 in the NLCS against Colorado.
Boy, he doesn't get cheated, man. He just airs it out.
Kyle Schwarber coming out of the 2014 draft and already making an impact. There's a strikeout. Montero is gone. Walker's out of the inning, but there is a new baby bull. Kyle Schwarber with his 2nd postseason home run, and the Cubbies are on top early. Picture perfect night here on a Monday night in Chicago, and the wind blowing out. Kyle Schwarber has given Jake Arrieta a 1-0 lead as we head to the 3rd inning. Schwarber with his second postseason homer, hit one in the wild card game, now has an opposite field home run in the DS. And Arrieta deals Colton Wong ball one to begin the third inning. Wong had a home run in game 2 on his 25th birthday Saturday night.
A lot of power for the little guy. Bombed the last game. A couple nice plays in the infield.
2 for 6 overall in the series. And Colton Wong is showing a little postseason savvy as well. He's already climbing the list for all-time home runs in a postseason by National League second baseman Chase Utley, who's been in the news a little bit this week. He leads that category with 10, but Wong already has 4, and he's only 25 years old. That includes a walk-off home run in the NLCS last year. There's a hot ground ball, and it's booted by Castro. Recovers and out at first.
When you got an arm like Starlin Castro, you never panic. And the out he recorded in the first inning, or the second inning, was no easy play off Molina. He made a smart play, took his time, got the out just as he did here.
There was some urgency to go get the ball, but once he got it, he calmed down and made the flip.
Here's Michael Wacha, the St. Louis pitcher, at the plate with 1 away. Arrieta starts him with a strike. Thinking about the plays that Castro has made already in the series, the routine, the not so routine, the ground ball that went up and over and around his head on the holiday that led to a challenge. This one, he's been a busy guy over there at second base, but he's handled the position change very well. That was a move made in August as the rookie Russell took over the everyday shortstop position for the Cubs.
I thought that was a great play when he laid back on that ball in the first inning. Excuse me. Yeah, the first inning and second inning, and threw him out. He knew who was running, Molina.
It was a very smart play.
No balls, 2 strikes. Arrieta facing Wacha, and down he goes. Making quick work of the pitcher. Wearing a mic for us today, Brandon Hyde, first base coach. Listen in a moment ago.
Go ball, go ball, go ball, go ball. Yeah!
There may be no cheering in the press box, but that is not the case in the first base coaching box. Brandon Hyde, who is also in charge of positioning the Cubs outfielders when they are on defense, making his voice known as Arrieta starts Carpenter with strike 1.
There's that breaking ball. Steps across, throws across his body. It's absolutely devastating.
A little hump in that one, like we talked about.
That one had a little height in it.
Now these two guys are very close. Carpenter sends one to left field. Schwarber drifting back, wind blowing out that way, and Schwarber makes a catch for the out. And that will end the inning. 3 up, 3 down for Arrieta after Schwarber went deep. Our coverage of the 2015 National League Division Series on TBS is presented by T-Mobile. See all the construction going on here at Wrigley Field. They've had a 3-year unfolding of the renovations of Wrigley Field, the giant scoreboard in left, and they've got a whole new setup there beyond the third base grandstand. And their first postseason game here since the 2008 season. Michael Wacha facing Jake Arrieta to start the Cubs half of the third inning. 1-0 Chicago on a Kyle Schwarber opposite field home run with 1 out last inning. Cubs are looking for their first postseason win in a game at Wrigley Field since 2003 in LCS Game 2. Back in 03. In 2008 they were swept. But that's the guy that is giving the Cubs hope at this point. Nobody has this kind of weapon across Major League Baseball. This is a postseason full of very talented pitchers as Wacha strikes out Arrieta. Between innings, Matt Weiner had a chance to catch up with the Cardinals skipper Mike Matheny.
Mike, Michael Wacha's early command troubles, do they feel like an extension of September?
Yeah, we've talked about it, how no different than everybody else too. We got to command the fastball, and Michael's just not had that rhythm yet. I thought the last hitter, Montero, it was the best I've seen his fastballs for how he was timed up, but everything else is going to feed off of that pitch, and right now he looks to be getting into a better groove with it.
Just too much plate on the changeup to Schwarber?
Well, I think not speeding anybody up. You can't go to that changeup until you've established the fastball. If he gets that fastball going, that changeup's going to be a more effective pitch.
Thanks.
All right, man.
You think about it, Schwarber was not concerned about the fastball. He threw him a 2-0 curveball to pitch before. So in the back of his mind, he's thinking about staying back. And even when you throw a decent changeup, it goes out of the ballpark.
Strong as he is, it does.
Ballpark conditions very different from what we saw in the first 2 games at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. That was extremely pitcher friendly. Wind was blowing in when there was any wind. It was cool there. Different story here tonight at Wrigley. Look at those flags. Dennis Eckersley starting to shake on his way into Wrigley Field today. Looking at those ripples on Lake Michigan, right?
Let me tell you something. I played here, man. I used to take batting practice, and I'd go bridge, and I went, wait a minute. If I could do that, what are the big boys going to do? It was brutal here when the wind blew out.
Molina about to throw that one to third base. Thought he had the strikeout.
And Fowler takes a ball low this time. And so now the count is 3-2. The Cubs leadoff man Dexter Fowler, he'll be a free agent at season's end as well. It's had a good series. That went in on the hands a little bit, but got some carry to it. And Tommy Pham will make the call in the catch. There is out number 2. Our aerial coverage tonight provided by Goodyear. Everything Goodyear has learned making tires that go the distance inspires what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven.
If you've never been here before, that gives you some idea how this ballpark is shoehorned into the neighborhood. It is surrounded by Wrigleyville. One of the things that makes it unique.
Wrigleyville was alive and well hours before this game began. And we'll be back here tomorrow afternoon for Game 4 as Soler, a big swing and a miss.
You see that right over the top from Walker. You can't just pick up that changeup.
Well, his manager was referring to that exactly right. You've got to make the hitters respect the fastball before that changeup's going to be effective. And he's airing out some fastballs this inning.
Boy, he had that corner. If he hit it, he's gone.
And he hits that corner. Gets the call, and the count, we're leaving a 2-2 now on Soler. Soler with a bit of a base running blunder in the first inning. Got caught off the bag on a soft line drive. Ended up as a double play, and that one just misses. And Soler now in a full count.
Amazing the patience Soler's had.
Really a good eye. And remember the home run he hit in St. Louis was to right center.
Curveball up.
Yeah, Soler, he got a piece. That hit the ground, a foul ball. Count will remain 3-2. So 26 balls, 26 strikes thus far for Michael Wacha. He's got Bryant due next if Soler can reach with 2 outs in this inning. Bryant singled his last time up. And Soler draws the walk. So Jorge Soler showing great strike zone discipline in this postseason. And his second walk of the game will set it up for Chris Bryant.
Boy, things could be a lot worse for Walker, especially when you look at the strike to ball counts.
And he's gone past that 45 pitch mark, and yet his fastball is still holding the velocity up there in the mid-90s. At least so far.
2 outs, runner at first for Bryant. The Cubs 3-hole hitter. Fastball's missing. He's trying for that corner, but he can't get the strike call. Bryant had a monster year. He's headed for the Rookie of the Year in the National League. There's a strike. That's a good pitch for Wacha.
There's a pitch at the bottom of the zone, but it was off the plate. And what Mike Matheny talked about, Wacha needing to be throwing downhill at the bottom of the zone, we haven't seen it yet. His fastball's been when it's been in the zone, it's been up.
And Bryant had a good hack at it right in the middle of the strike zone, but he missed it. He fouled it back.
So you get a pitch to hit. That's it right there. Looking fastball, gets fastball.
Bryant set a Cubs rookie record for home runs and RBIs in a season, passing the great Billy Williams. 26 homers, 99 runs batted in. And he did most of his damage, Joe, here at Wrigley Field. He destroyed opposing pitchers in his home ballpark. He hit .311 here at Wrigley this year, and 21 of his 26 homers came in the friendly confines.
And some long ones.
He broke in that new scoreboard pretty well in left field with a few long home runs. That's a called strike 3. Michael Wacha rings the bell with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, and the inning is over. And Wacha puts up a 0 in the third. 1-0 Cubs. 3 in the books. Game 3 of the NLDS. A friendly rivalry for the most part. First time these two have matched up in the postseason. Say official caps, hoodies, jackets, and more. You can celebrate with your favorite team at the MLB.com shop. Great crowd, lively crowd here at Wrigley Field. You knew it would be that way. Sellout crowds in St. Louis. They were extremely loud at Busch Stadium. This is one of those series you figure they're going to be talking about for a long, long time. These two franchises have been playing against each other since 1892. But for the first time, they're matching up in the postseason. Jake Arrieta facing Stephen Piscotty to start the St. Louis fourth. Piscotty, Holiday, and Hayward. Arrieta with 3 scoreless. He did give up a leadoff double to Jason Hayward in the second inning. Most of his outs on the ground thus far. Has a couple of strikeouts as well. 3 of them, as a matter of fact.
Boy, you see the way he yanks that ball across his body. I mean, you don't teach that. The way he pitches is like, you think it's a sore arm waiting to happen.
You have to be really strong too, don't you, to get that breaking ball to work.
This guy is so strong. He is a stud. His Wally workout is what he is.
Is that yanking one?
Is that Wally workout?
Yeah. I mean, my man is in serious shape. I mean, he's got some funky things that he does. You know, not that Pilates are funky, but he's got a lot of other things that he does.
He's 29 years of age. Got drafted out of TCU. He and Matt Carpenter were teammates at TCU. Matter of fact, Arrieta was a groomsman in Carpenter's wedding. So there's a connection there. Went to TCU by way of Weatherford Junior College. And Carpenter knows this is going to be an interesting matchup. He's faced him before, but never under this kind of pressure. 3-2 pitch to Piscotty, and it's over his head and back to the screen. So Piscotty will draw the walk. First walk issued by Arrieta, second base runner for St. Louis. Between innings, Matt Weiner had a chance to catch up with Joe Madden.
Joe, Jake has set the bar so high. I guess if you wanted to nitpick, you could say he got into some deeper counts earlier than normal, but otherwise.
Yeah, a little behind in a couple of the counts. The finish on the pitch, it's been a little bit up from my perspective over here. If he gets the ball back down where he'd like to, getting some better counts and get back to normal.
Kyle Schwarber's second home run of the postseason already. What impresses you about this kid?
Well, he took a changeup and hit it to the opposite field. If you watch him during the course of the game, he's never in a hurry. He's never in a rush. He's definitely in the moment. That's what I appreciate about him the most.
Thanks, Joe.
My pleasure, Mike.
And thanks to Joe Madden. And Arrieta misfires to Matt Holliday, so he is working on a shutout through the first 3 innings here, Dennis, but he's not the dominant Jake Arrieta. I think Matt put it well to Joe Madden. The bar is set so high with this guy, but he is into some 3-ball counts here. He's got 4 of them already to the first 11 batters he's faced, and his pitch count is at 48 already.
And especially Piscotty, who was 0-2, and you saw he just yanked the ball in the dirt, almost hit him with a 3-2 pitch. I mean, he's way out of sync.
Holiday, big power bat at the plate. Got a lead runner on. Now, Arrieta is a guy you can run on. He gives up very few base runners, but you saw the Pirates very aggressive on the base paths with Arrieta. And the combination, Joe, of Arrieta and Montero does present some stolen base opportunities for the opponent.
27, was that
27, yeah. I mean, it's like he and Lester both just give up stolen bases. This guy is out of sync. He's yanking everything.
Yeah, keep in mind that in his 34 straight innings of scoreless baseball, that was only his second walk. But tonight he is really having to work from behind the 8 ball in terms of the count. His pitching coach will go out and try to get him squared away.
And Chris Bosio has had a lot to do with the success of Jake Arrieta, and those are words from Jake Arrieta, who was not this kind of pitcher with the Baltimore Orioles. Arrieta was traded in July of 13 for Scott Feldman and Steve Clevenger. The Orioles also threw in Pedro Strop, so the Cubs have been able to turn that trade into an ace and a late inning reliever. So a quick visit by Bosio, and let's check in with Matt. What do you have, Matt?
with the Orioles. Jake Arrieta's numbers with the Orioles were fairly pedestrian, as you know, and when he was traded over to Chicago, they actually sent him down to the minor leagues before they brought him back up. I talked to Mark Reynolds of the Cardinals, who played with Arrieta in Baltimore. He says he doesn't see a lot different except for he's pitching from the right side of the rubber, the third base side of the rubber. He said he told him back when they were teammates that he had the best stuff of anybody on the team.
There's no question about his talent, but Joe, it was all about his positioning on the rubber, the fact that he threw a little bit across his body, or they allowed him to as a member of the Cubs, but his numbers didn't show in Baltimore the kind of pitcher that he has been this season. He's got a chance to win a Cy Young Award. And he's working himself into some trouble here in the fourth inning. Back-to-back walks, Piscotty and Holiday, and 2 on with nobody out.
Said this about Waka in the first inning, that you can't pitch behind in the count in this ballpark tonight with the wind blowing out. Same goes for Arrieta. You can make a mistake just as easily as anyone else that would fly out of here what would normally be a routine fly ball.
And the one hitter in the Cardinal lineup that has his number, Jason Hayward, will step up there with 2 on, nobody out. Hayward doubled his last time up. And a swing and a miss.
This is territory that Arrieta has not been in a long, long time. I don't think he's ever walked 2 guys in a row to begin with nobody out. You're yanking a ball. I mean, he's just got to keep on letting it go. You can't try to aim anything.
Hayward's a tough guy to double up. He is very fast. And what a pick by Montero. Throw to second. Piscotty is back. Oh, that was a heck of a play by Miguel Montero. Otherwise, you're looking at second and third and nobody out.
It's amazing. A guy makes a play on the backhand. He's coming out firing.
I think they had that already set up. Russell was already darting in behind Piscotty, so he wanted to short hop that and make a throw.
Could have easily gotten back to the screen.
Easily.
1 ball, 1 strike on Hayward. And he pulls this one foul. Kind of goes 1 and 2.
Everything's been really hard this inning, including those hard breaking balls that got away. He took a little off there and got a good result, got a strike.
What he talks about, add a little, take a little off with his breaking ball, and they saw it there. He's looking for a punch out big time. He's going to get it with something hard, break it down.
Ground ball, foul. And Hayward staying alive here. Hayward coming to the Cardinals from the Atlanta Braves. That was a significant trade for St. Louis. The tragic passing of Oscar Taveras last year. And aside from the emotional toll that it took, the Cardinals found themselves without a capable outfielder. John Mozeliak made the deal, trading Shelby Miller to Atlanta to acquire Hayward, who will be a free agent at season's end, and he has had a terrific year. Hayward, he's been a big part of St. Louis's success. They had 100 wins, most wins in the major leagues, and Hayward right there in the middle of it. You could call him your team MVP this season. And Hayward takes a ball low. Arrieta misses with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
And Jason will be a free agent at the end of the year too, which was another one of the reasons the Braves made that deal. They got a player back that certainly was instrumental in their season in terms of his, even though his numbers didn't imply that. Shelby Miller had a terrific year.
And a called strike 3. Arrieta comes back with the fastball. And Hayward, just a spectator. Down he goes. Strikeout number 4 for Arrieta.
Well, it's hard to think. You think with Arrieta out there, especially when he was struggling. That's not a really good breaking ball. You see a hard one there. You see a looping breaking ball that he fouls off. Another little cutter. Misses with a fastball and freezes him with a fastball inside. Big pitch.
High stress pitches early in this game for Arrieta. Had to pitch out of a jam in the second inning after a leadoff double. Now 1 away. 2 on for Johnny Peralta.
And Peralta frozen, and he's a guy that likes to go after the first pitch in run-scoring situations.
Peralta in this postseason is hitless. He is 0 for 8. Had an 8-pitch battle with Arrieta in the second inning, resulting in a ground out to third base. He is a double play candidate. And he lines out in right field. That's going to slice into the seats. A foul ball, and it's no balls and 2 strikes on Peralta.
We talked before about Arrieta goes at 90%, he says a lot. Well, if there's the 100%, now it's time. These last 2 hitters, talk about stress piece.
Good fastball hitter here in Peralta. If you think you're going to sneak one by him, though, he's taking a big chance.
The 0-2, and Peralta hammers one into left field. Schwarber looks up. That ball's off the ivy. Coming in to score is Piscotty. Hayward will end up at third, and it's an RBI double for Johnny Peralta. All tied at 1 as the St. Louis shortstop delivers.
0-2 breaking ball. It took 2 fastballs, and he just flips this ball. I thought it had a chance, but you see the hanger. He had some topspin on this ball, or this is a 3-run bomb. Hanger 0-2 off the ivy right there. Luckily for Arrieta, that ball was hit good.
First hit of the postseason for Johnny Peralta this year, and it's a big one. It drives in a run, all tied at 1. Cardinals with runners at second and third for Tommy Pham, who takes a strike.
Again, stressful inning, something he's not accustomed to recently. In fact, he hasn't had an inning where he's allowed 2 runs or more since July 25th.
That run snaps a scoreless streak for Arrieta at 43 2/3 innings here at Wrigley Field. There's a chopper, third base. Bryant has to go to first, and the Cardinals will take the lead on a ground ball out by Tommy Pham. Put the ball in play, and the Cardinals deliver again. Pham with another run batted in, and it's 2-1 St. Louis.
This was a smart thing to do. You see this high chopper. Bryant takes a look. I think he made the right to go to first base. I think that was the play to make.
Now Tommy Pham has a home run in this series. Now an RBI ground out gives the Cardinals the lead here in the 4th inning. That was the one card that Matheny played here today, different from what we thought. He said Pham's in there for Arrieta. Now runner at third for Molina. He swings away at the first pitch.
That hurt.
And that left hand comes off the bat.
That's the first time we've seen a reaction from him on a swing or on a pitch. He's catching.
Molina is using an interesting bat. The handle of his bat is an axe handle cut, which is a little bit unusual, trying to give him a little more protection.
It's almost like you swing and get fooled and don't make contact, and it hurts more. You almost need to hit the ball.
The left thumb is the problem.
This is one tough cookie. For him to react like that, it had to be very painful.
And if you're Arrieta, you just keep coming with the fastball. It's quickly 0-2 on Molina. And a little ground ball. Arrieta makes the play, and that will retire the side. But the St. Louis Cardinals, they strike for 2 against Jake Arrieta. Johnny Peralta, Tommy Pham with runs batted in. 2-1 Cardinals as we go to the home 4th. Cardinals lead 2-1 over the Cubs. Bottom of the fourth inning. They honor the great Ernie Banks here at Wrigley Field. It is Chevy Truck Month. It is time to make a strong decision. Like choosing a Chevy Silverado, Chevrolet is proud to be the official vehicle of Major League Baseball. Cubs got a run in the second inning on a Kyle Schwarber opposite field homer. Jake Arrieta walks the first two batters of the fourth, and now the Cardinals have a lead. Michael Wacha facing Anthony Rizzo to start the bottom of the fourth inning. There's strike one.
Big time shutdown inning wanted here by the Cardinals. He's the middle of their lineup.
Rizzo hit a soft liner that turned into a double play to win the first inning. Rizzo now 0 for 11 in the postseason. Bounced into a double play. And in this series, he is 0 for 7. Shift is on for Rizzo as it is for Schwarber. Cardinals not a team that shifts very often. And Rizzo right to the only man over there, Johnny Peralta. And there is out number one. Gives us a chance for a game break. Let's check in with Casey Stern. He is in our Atlanta studio. What do you have, Case? All right, Casey, thanks. Looking forward to that matchup. And that, of course, is the big news of the postseason thus far is Starlin Castro. He will watch this one fly way out of here. Castro ties it up at 2.
Tell you what, you'd be flipping a breaking ball over to get over for strike one, which they have. I don't know if he's sitting on it, but I'll tell you what, a little bit out front, stayed back enough to drive this ball a long, long ways.
Hit it high and watch it fly tonight. Ball is jumping.
All this talk about the pitchers, specifically Arrieta, and the offense charged up early for both clubs. Cardinals just got 2, and now Castro, the second Cubs homer of the night, and with Schwarber coming up, they will put the shift on. Starlin Castro, whatever it is that he lost earlier in the season, he has found in the last 2 months of the regular season and on into the postseason. That is his 3rd hit already. Could have easily had 3 hits in game 2. Let's take a look at StatCast, powered by Amazon Web Services. The home run by Schwarber back in the second inning.
And a change up.
Not a whole lot of places that ball goes out, 369 feet. But it found the basket here at Wrigley.
2 home runs in 4 innings off of Wacha. He gave up 19 in the regular season, but 8 of those came in his last 30 innings of work in the regular season.
And Schwarber pops this one foul and on a play. So that home run by Schwarber left the bat with an exit velocity of 101. That one from Castro, 100.
He just stayed back on that. He just reacted to it. His kept his hands back.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Schwarber takes a ball low.
Tell you what, Walker's been in and out of the strike zone a lot.
Kyle Schwarber is the first Cubs rookie with 2 homers in 1 postseason. He's just getting started. Down he goes. Wacha comes back to get him. A strikeout for the second out of the inning. Good answer after the home run for Michael Wacha.
That wasn't a changeup he hit out. That ball's down and away, running hard. That is Wacha's big league changeup that he has, and that's where you want it, right there.
And with 2 away, here is Addison Russell. And a foul pop behind the plate his last time up. And he's on the first pitch, and that ball's in well left field. And Addison Russell will watch this one bounce into the ivy. On his way to second, now thinking third. He's on his way. The cutoff and relay, not in time. Russell with a triple. Well, the Cubs rookies have come to play here tonight. Ryan, Schwarber, Russell, all done damage.
It's kind of risky there. Fastball in. He turns on this thing. I thought it was going out of the ballpark. He didn't get it hit high enough. It goes off the ivy. I thought it stuck out there for a second, but it's risky going to third base. He gets there. It's an exciting play, but it just, I don't know if it's just too risky with 2 outs, but he gets there. What a play.
He was taking advantage of Matt Holliday, trying to take advantage of his arm. Now they're checking him to make sure he was okay after that slide. I didn't see his fingers go right into the base, if that's what it is they're looking at.
Athletic trainer P.J. Mainville's out there with Joe Madden taking a look at Addison Russell.
Remember, he made a headfirst slide. I think it was in Pittsburgh where he got his left hand trapped under him a little bit, and they were concerned about that.
He's stumbling his way to third base. I think he thought it was gone for a second when he first hit it, but
it was his right hand that got the bag, and he hit the ground hard.
And they are taking him out. Wow. This is a big loss for the Chicago Cubs. So Russell is coming out, and they lose their starting shortstop. Javier Baez will come in, a very capable defensive shortstop in his own right. He will come in to run, and I'm sure he will remain in the game at the shortstop position. See if we can pick something up here on the slide.
Couldn't see, but they're not going to pitch to Montero. They're going to give it to Arrieta.
Pitcher due up next, so an intentional pass coming here with 2 outs. And the one thing about the Cubs, the one reason why they are here for this postseason is their depth and their minor league system producing very well, much like the Cardinals. And that's going to be tested here now that Russell is out, and Javier Baez, who was thought to be the shortstop of the future even as early as last year, is in there for Russell. And Montero with the free pass will set it up for the pitcher Arrieta, who handles the bat pretty well for a pitcher.
He's going to be pitched to like a hitter right here.
A couple of homers this summer.
There was a stretch there in the second half where Arrieta hit as many home runs as he allowed. 2. He hit 152 this season, 12 hits on the year. And you can see he's got a pretty good idea at the plate. And just as you would expect, he goes up there with no batting gloves. Big old bat. Looks like Paul Bunyan up there swinging the bat.
No elbow guard. It's the only pitcher in the league probably doesn't wear an elbow guard.
Throwing fastball away. I thought he'd throw him some hooks.
Wow, that was interesting. Did you see the hot dog wrapper went right by the foot of Michael Walker just as he was letting the pitch go? He says, I don't want this trash.
Used to drive me crazy when it go in front of me. And you'd wait and say, well, I'll just wait till it goes, and it wouldn't leave. So you don't know whether to call timeout or what. And then go get the thing and put it in your pocket, you know?
But every player looks for a moment to give it to an umpire. Walker just gave it to him. The trash belongs with the umpire. Arrieta, swing and a miss.
Well, he just went to heat 3 pieces of cheese in a row.
Not going to speed his bat up for him.
And a swing and a miss. Down he goes. Strikeout to end it, but Starlin Castro ties this game at 2. 4 in the books at Wrigley. Sun has set north side of Chicago, Wrigley Field. Jake Arrieta back to work. It is a windy Monday night. Wind is howling out towards right field. The wind has actually shifted a little bit. Javier Baez will stay in the game after pinch running for Russell. He'll play short. That keeps Starlin Castro at second base. And it was a Starlin Castro home run that tied this game up. 2-2 ball game as we play in the fifth, with Colton Wong leading off against Arrieta.
I think most people would think, okay, well, Castro was your shortstop at the beginning of the year. Why not move him over to short? But Joe Madden told us, no, he is a second baseman now, and he's going to stay there. And Baez, certainly a very capable replacement in the shortstop position.
Wong in an 0-2 count. Arrieta punches him out right down the middle. He fooled him. Wong was looking for something else. He got a fastball middle. And a strikeout for Arrieta.
Thinks he's going to throw him that cutter down and in, and he takes one right there. Not even on the inside corner. That ball's middle.
5 punch outs for Jake Arrieta.
Not a whole lot unlike the one that Hayward took.
Exactly.
Caught him guessing as well.
Here's Waka, the Cardinal pitcher. And a foul ball for strike one. Nothing for Jake Arrieta. He's in our forecaster presented by FanDuel. 87% of his starts have resulted in wins for the Chicago Cubs. The most wins, first 20-game winner for the Cubs since 2001. A 22-game winner this season. Arrieta led the National League in victories. 3 times he was the player of the week in the National League, and twice the pitcher of the month in the National League. Led the league in wins and complete games. He had 4 of those. Had a complete game in the wild card game last Wednesday, but his pitch count is higher than it normally is at this point of the game. The Cardinals have done a good job in that category. And a wave and a miss, and Arrieta strikes out Waka for the second time. That gives him 6.
Because of all that you just said about Arrieta, Brian, that home run by Castro was huge from a momentum standpoint. The Cardinals had actually taken a lead off of him. They took advantage of 2 walks to start an inning. A guy who hadn't been giving up anything. Castro gives the Cubs the momentum right back, gets Arrieta even. That was a big shift.
And that's why they talk about the shutdown innings. I mean, that was huge, especially when you get off 2 runs off of Arrieta. It's like it's impossible, and you give it right back.
Here's Carpenter now, jumping on the first pitch, fouls it away.
He's had 2 good swings. You know, he hit the fly ball to right that maybe got in on him a little bit, but he backed Schwarber up to the wall and left. He's had 2 good hacks at his old pal.
16 strikes, last 17 pitches. That double by Peralta that gave the Cardinals the lead, or actually tied the game, and then the ground ball by Pham was part of that grouping. He's had back-to-back strikeouts. His old TCU Horned Frog teammate, Carpenter, and that's pulled through the hole, a base hit. Matt Carpenter singles to right with 2 away. A lot of discussion between these two. Carpenter had never had a hit against Arrieta, 0 for 18 in his career, and they were together at TCU. Carpenter moving all around the diamond. That picture, by the way, with the beard of Arrieta, that's a recent picture, I think, from an alumni game. He doesn't even look like the same guy in the other 2 images. But yeah, they have deep roots together, Carpenter and Arrieta. Carpenter gets him for the first time, his first career hit against him. So a man on with 2 away, and a wave and a miss. Piscotty and a slider and right over the top of it.
That's not good news for the Cardinals. He's getting that radar working on that breaking ball.
It's funny because they had recognized it a little bit the first time around, but all of a sudden you see a swing like that, they have no idea.
Now the Cubs have lost their starting shortstop. Let's check in with Matt Weiner. What do you have from the clubhouse, Matt?
Well, he's not reemerged in the clubhouse. We are told he is being treated for tightness in his left hamstring.
All right, so out is Russell, and in is Baez, waiting on his first ground ball. And Piscotty takes a strike. Well-placed fastball from Arrieta. Piscotty in a 1-2 count. Two outs, runner at first. Arrieta deals and a swing and a miss. He struck him out, and the inning is over. A single in the fifth, but 3 punch-outs for Jake Arrieta. He's got 7 tonight. Let's take a look at tonight's playmakers presented by Chrysler. And how about the Cubs outfielders? Look at Joe Simpson perk up. Outfielders at the plate performing very well. Kyle Schwarber has 5 hits in this postseason to lead the way, and this is the group that is carrying the Cubs offensively.
Everybody else needs to pick up the pace for the Cubs.
Dexter Fowler had 3 hits in the wild card game against the Pirates, including a home run. Has 2 hits in this division series. Michael Wacha starts this inning on the mound with bullpen activity out there in the right field line. With Segrist getting loose.
They can't afford to let him get in trouble again. He needs a clean inning is what he needs.
Very unusual wind here at Wrigley Field. So when we started, it was a summer breeze blowing out. That's a southwest wind blowing out to center field. Now it is coming out of the west, and you don't see that much, and it is blowing straight out to right field. I would imagine right now it's gusting into the 20-30 mile an hour range at times.
For a left-handed hitter to hook it out of here.
3-1. Fowler high in the air. Wind will blow it out there towards Hayward, drifting back, still going back. And he's got it for the out. A routine pop-up ends up nearly on the warning track for the first out of the inning for Wacha. Aerial coverage tonight provided by Goodyear. Everything Goodyear has learned making tires that go the distance inspires what they roll into yours. Goodyear, more driven.
Jason Hayward, an excellent outfielder and a Gold Glove right fielder. Mike Matheny said tonight with Pham in center, the nice thing is having Jason in right, because right field is tougher to play here at this ballpark.
Here's Jorge Soler. What a postseason he is putting together. He is in that group of outfield success. He's had 7 plate appearances. He has not been retired. And you could make it 8. Jorge Soler is locked in. And a base hit with 1 away. And we'll see if that forces the hand of Mike Matheny. The heart of this order is coming up. Soler, 8 plate appearances, 3 hits and 5 walks now.
Started him off with a changeup, then he couldn't get the fastball on the outside corner. Soler is all over it. I mean, a bullet into left field. And they don't miss fastballs. You cannot sneak one by him.
He's staying back, using his hands. Ball's jumping off his bat.
And Matheny will stick with Waka. 1 out. Here's Bryant. And a fastball missed.
Bryant on a fastball last time up that looked a little bit outside.
That's been the game plan. Staying away from Bryant, who singled in the first inning, his first postseason hit. He had been 0 for 11. 2-0. Yeah, big deep breath by Waka. I don't blame him.
Well, Rizzo is on deck, left-handed hitter, but Seager's numbers, if they go to him, he's actually better against right-handers than he is against lefties.
And Molina, another timely visit to the mound.
It says something when Seacrest is out there, and this is what, the 5th inning? I mean,
right.
There's a guy that goes into the 8th inning. You got to be ready.
The Cardinals are afforded this opportunity because of Adam Wainwright. So that gives Matheny some flexibility in his bullpen. He can afford to have Seagrass getting loose in this spot. Big pitch coming here. 2-0 to Bryant. And he misses. 3 balls, no strikes.
I'm guessing green light here. If there was nobody out, maybe take.
Something Bryant does all the time. 3-0, and he swings and misses. He took a shot at it.
Hardest ball that Walker's thrown all night long. He just aired it out.
One out, runner at first. And Bryant fouls it away. Walker gets himself back in the count.
He's been late a lot. Bryant has during this stretch where he's trying to find his swing again. I know he got a hit in the first inning, but fastball, he's been late.
Soler with a 1-out single. Very short lead at first base. And Bryant sends one in the air. Way back left field. Goodbye. 2-run home run. Chris Bryant. Cubs have the lead.
He wasn't late on that one.
I'll tell you what, when you give somebody 6 fastballs, right? 6 fastballs, balls up, he's not late, just like you said. That's why he's Rookie of the Year, because he's got big fly power.
And that will be the last hitter that Waka faces. Maybe one too many for the Cardinals. Cubs lead on the Bryant bomb. shot heard all through Chicago. Chris Bryant launches a 2-run home run out of here. The Cubs now lead it, and Mike Matheny goes to Kevin Segrist out of his bullpen.
Segrist, you see all the work he's had, 81 games this year. A lot of punch outs, fastball changeup with fastball cuts. Healthy gas right there.
Yeah, he can run it up there around 97 at times and likes to use his fastball. Changeup is his best pitch, I think, off the fastball, but he doesn't use it much against lefties.
Anthony Rizzo with one man out. Chris Bryant's home run, a showstopper here at Wrigley Field. His first home run in 20 days. He had been in a bit of a drought with the production. Hadn't had an RBI in that stretch as well. He and Rizzo slumping coming in, but Joe Maddon showing a lot of confidence in all of his comments when the questions about Bryant and Rizzo came up. Joe Maddon just laughs. So these guys, they'll be here, don't worry. And they've won 2 games in this postseason without them, without their production offensively. Different story tonight. Bryant has 2 hits. Rizzo still looking for his first.
And again, you'll see Rizzo come up off the knob of the bat, behind in the count, shorten up his swing a little bit.
2-2 pitch, and Rizzo way back. Anthony Rizzo with a home run, a no-doubter. To 2 Chicago as Anthony Rizzo's first postseason hit is a memory. A long home run into the bleachers in right field.
Is he psyched or what? This is a piece of cheese. That ball's thrown hard right down the middle. He saw enough fastballs. He got the head out. You're talking about the wind blown out to boot. This ball is absolutely crushed.
Yeah, he didn't need the wind, did he?
Right.
Boy, that came in hot as it went into the bleachers. Now Castro, who homered in the 4th inning to tie the game. This Wrigley Field crowd is alive and well right now. Well, the last couple of innings, the Cubs crushing Cardinal pitching. Castro hit a tape measure shot in the 4th inning with 1 out. After the Cardinals had scored twice in the top of the 4th. That was in the bottom of the 4th to tie it up. And a pop-up. Not an easy play here by any stretch. The wind's blowing that back towards fair territory. And it is Piscotty who makes a great catch. Steven Piscotty is down. Has the ball in his glove. Wong gets up limping. And for a guy who survived a violent collision just a couple of weeks ago in Pittsburgh, he is involved in another one here tonight.
He got his legs chopped out from under him by Wong, who was also tracking the baseball. He may have been calling for it too, but you know, with the crowd so close, neither one could hear.
This is not an easy play to begin with. Over your shoulder. See, Wong cuts him out, cuts underneath him, lands on his head a little bit, shoulder. Concentration enough to catch this ball.
Hard crash to the ground. Piscotty had made it through all the concussion protocols there at the end of the season. Remarkably, after that collision he had in Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago. I'm sure they are very concerned about this fall to the plate. Piscotty looks like he's all right in that he wants to remain in the game.
Well, this could have been worse, really. I mean, got your legs cut out.
Could have been worse. Jason Hayward got involved too. Flattened both of them.
Well, both players fortunate. We'll see how long they'll be able to remain. That is a fantastic play by Piscotty, though.
Terrific.
Fearless catch for the 2nd out of the inning. Now Kyle Schwarber is coming up. Schwarber hit a home run in the second inning to start the scoring tonight in Game 3. Struck out his last time up. You cannot help but be impressed with the success of the Cubs rookies. It is so rare to have 4 rookies in a starting lineup in a postseason game, and then to have all of those rookies contribute like they are here tonight. Solaire's been on all 3 times. Got a hit that started this rally in this inning. Bryant, 2 hits, including a 2-run homer. Rizzo, not a rookie, but helped keep the scoring going. And you got Schwarber and Addison Russell.
You talk about the middle of their lineup, 3, 4, 5, 6 all went deep.
Yeah, again, Seager splits are reverse splits. He's better against right-handers. All fastballs to Rizzo, and he caught up to one.
And the 1-2, Schwarber takes a ball down and away. The last time the Cubs won a game here at Wrigley Field in the postseason was the last time they hit 4 home runs in a game in the postseason. That was October of '03 against the then Florida Marlins. They've got 4 tonight. And the record for the Cubs in the postseason in a single game is 5. And Dennis, that was from that 1984 club you're talking about that had Rick Sutcliffe, a 16-game winner. You were a member of that ball club.
And he hit a home run in that game.
That was against San Diego. Schwarber takes off the plate. 3 balls, 2 strikes on the rookie Schwarber. Rizzo's home run came on a 2-strike pitch. The payoff, and Schwarber launches one foul. And that's going to head out on to Sheffield. That might break a window.
Fastballs, fastballs, fastballs. He's going to have to use something different to these left-handed hitters.
With that kind of fastball, you'd think he would blow guys away, left-handed hitters.
And Schwarber, what an at-bat. He draws the walk. Got the count back full and draws a walk to keep the inning alive. A man on with 2 outs. 3 runs are in. Anthony Rizzo's first postseason hit. He gets the silent treatment. Nobody came over for him. A symbol of this loose Chicago Cubs outfit.
And of course, Rizzo and La Stella talking it over.
It's the only love over there in that dugout. It makes sense. Here's Javier Baez, his first at-bat. Talk about all the power up and down this Cubs lineup. Baez has as much as anyone. This guy can launch. Did so last year. Came up, set the world on fire in the first 3 weeks in the big leagues, and then had a hard time striking out a lot. They sent him back to the minor leagues. Joe Madden, everybody wants to ask Madden about Baez's offense, and he's got one of these huge swings that draws oohs and ahs even when he misses. But Joe Madden always talks about his defense, Joe, and how good he is.
Great arm, good range, play anywhere on the diamond.
They got kids like this coming up, they're just so deep. This kid's got to cut down on his strikeouts without a doubt, but he's got to find a place to play here with Russell and Castro.
Baez spent most of the year at AAA for the Cubs. Getting his first postseason at bat, and he fouls one away. Cardinals have activity in their bullpen. Inning started with Michael Wacha on the mound. And you can tell Matheny was debating whether to take him out or leave him in after the Soler at bat. He left him in to face Bryant. Bryant went deep. Seth Maness is the Cardinal right-hander. It's the 4th batter faced for Seagrass. He's gotten 1 out. And that one's up and in. Full count.
A lot of bad counts tonight for Cardinals pitchers. They've had to try to get outs
And they've been at hitters' counts, and that's been tough.
And the freewheeling Baez looking for something he can drive here. It's 5-2 Cubs, 2 outs, 5th inning. And Baez on the ground in the hole that sneaks through a base hit. Schwarber all the way to third base. Javier Baez in his first postseason at bat delivers with a single, and the inning is alive and well for the Cubbies.
Get some good swings when you got a 3-2 pitch looking fastball down in. That ball cut a little bit. He finds a hole. A little late start there by Carpenter, but I don't think he would have got there anyway. First and third here off Seacrest.
And another moment of truth here for Mike Matheny. Does he allow Seacrest to continue? Looks like he's gonna against the left-handed hitting Montero. More on Baez. Let's check in with Matt Weiner. What do you have, Matt?
Well, guys, the 2015 season got off to a very difficult start for Javier Baez, who lost his 21-year-old sister Noelle. She had been dealing with complications from spina bifida from birth. When they told her parents she probably wouldn't live more than a week. She made it to 21. She was a huge fan of her big brother, and obviously a tough blow for him.
Yeah, it's been a tough road off the field. He had his troubles on the field. And I feel like that's why every time you ask Joe Madden about some of these other players and these star players that have come up for the Cubs, he always seems to work in Javier Baez's name. He feels like he's going to be a big contributor for Chicago, and he has been tonight. Montero takes a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike on the veteran Cub catcher.
They got the call on the outside corner of the first pitch, and it looked like Molina was holding that one there for Mike Winters because he thought it might be the same pitch. Didn't get the call. Neither one on pitch track showing you that they were on the plate.
And there's a called strike. Puts a count at a ball and 2 strikes. Montero is hitless thus far, but he has reached. He reached on an intentional walk, and then he drove in a run in game 2. Molina surveying.
And again, what does Seacrest go to here? Left-handed hitter for an out. Go back to that same spot a little more off the plate. Hope he chases a little soon.
First and third. Baez with a big lead at first base. There he goes. And the pitch is outside the ball. Molina doesn't even bother with the throw. They wanted to put the first baseman Piscotty behind the runner. So Baez ends up at second base.
But now what do you do?
I mean, really, you can't give him a pitch to hit here.
You got the pitcher on deck.
And you know Arrieta's not coming out.
You better not make a mistake here.
And now Molina's on his way. Well, there's 2 ways to think about it, right? You can go after him here with 2 strikes. If you get him out, you'll have the pitcher Arrieta leading off the next inning. But boy, a base hit here with runners at second and third, and you've just rolled a major dice.
If you're Montero, you got to expand your zone a little bit. The guys hit you with some strikes a little bit off the plate. He likes to pull the ball, then look middle away and see if you can drive one somewhere. If they pitch it inside, fight it off.
Watch out for a wild pitch here too. Schwarber can get a big lead over at third base. Second and third, 2 outs. And a swing and a miss. Seacrest challenged him and strikes him out. The Cubs put a crooked number on the board in the 5th. After the Soler hit to start it, Chris Bryant goes deep. And then Anthony Rizzo, an even longer home run. Cubs lead at 5-2, game 3 of this National League Division Series. And a reminder that official caps, hoodies, jackets, and more. Celebrate with your favorite team at the MLB.com shop. And this crowd is riled up. Jake Arrieta back on the mound. The Cubs have so much faith in Jake Arrieta, and especially when they get a lead. And now it's a 3-run lead for one of the game's most dominant pitchers. Arrieta giving up 2 runs in the 4th inning. He walked the first 2 hitters of the inning. One of those included Matt Holliday, who leads off in the Cardinals' 6th.
Well, with a 3-run lead, he can now afford to be less exact with his stuff. He can challenge in that first pitch, get ahead in the count, not worry about a long ball.
They put that one right by Holliday. 95-mile-an-hour fastball. 1-2 the count. Holliday struck out in the first inning. That ended the first. And then had the walk and the run scored in the 4th inning. Cubs led 1-0 after a homer by Schwarber in the 2nd. Cardinals took the lead with 2 in the 4th. Peralta and Pham with RBIs. And then the tying home run by Castro in the 4th. 3-run 5th for Chicago. Back-to-back homers, Bryant and Rizzo.
Even when he's center cut, Arrieta, there's the deception with that crossfire. He can't get cute here. You don't need any 3-2 counts. I'd go right after him.
Holliday trying to drive one to the opposite field. 2-2 the count. Holliday this year snapped a string of 8 straight 20-homer, 30-double seasons. Was the longest current streak in the major leagues. He dealt with the quad injury that put him on the disabled list twice. And there was a lot of concern whether he'd be able to come back and what kind of hitter he'd be coming back. And very few at-bats. He's been swinging it well, though, and there's a base hit. So Holliday with a leadoff single here in the 6th inning.
Jumped on a slider and all that stuff about how he was only a Coors Field hitter. Nonsense.
Let's check in with Casey Stern. Got a game break setting up the Dodgers and the Mets from New York tonight. All right, thanks, Casey. That'll be some fun. First postseason game ever at Citi Field, which opened in '09. So they're revved up. They're certainly fired up here in Wrigleyville, Chicago. Haven't had a postseason game here at historic Wrigley Field since '08. And haven't seen their team win a game at Wrigley Field in the postseason since 2003. So a long way to go in this one. Jason Hayward with a lead man on at first.
There are a lot of great venues for postseason. Fans are certainly supportive and wild and crazy at all the home venues, but it doesn't get much better than Wrigley Field. Fans right on top of the action, so passionate, and they're being treated to a lead tonight with some long balls.
Cubs have hit 4 home runs tonight. 3 of the 4 solo. Bryant had the 2-run shot last inning. Here's a 1-1. And Hayward in the air, hit well, deep left center field. And that ball is up and out of here. Jason Hayward, a 2-run blast. And the Cardinals are right back in it. His 2nd hit of the night against Jake Arrieta. And it's a 5-4 ball game.
You get a ball in the air, it's going to fly out of here tonight, even the opposite field. This is a backdoor cutter, a hanger, wasn't it? A little curveball you don't see very often. He goes out all the way out to get that ball.
I'm telling you, he loves the ball away from him where he can extend his arms and drive the ball to left center, to left field, like we've seen twice tonight.
Well, that the crowd is quiet.
Boy, Jason Hayward has owned Jake Arrieta in his career. He's one of the few. 2 more hits tonight. That gives him 8 hits in their confrontations. Well, that is a huge home run for Hayward and the Cardinals. A 2-run blast Nobody out. Start the inning fresh for Johnny Peralta.
It's like Castro's homer that tied the game for the Cubs. This home run gives the Cardinals life, gets them back in it mentally, because they've gotten 4 off of Arrieta and are only 1 down.
And now Peralta, swing and a miss.
Well, you're thinking this game's over. Arrieta's on the mound, 3-run lead. Shut down innings. I mean, it's huge. The Cardinals are not giving up.
And the Cardinals, not a team known as a home run hitting ball club throughout the regular season. Bottom 3rd in the major leagues in that category, but that has not been the case in this postseason. It's for Arrieta, the most runs given up since mid-June. Had a historic second half. Double barrel action in the bullpen. It's Clayton Richard, the left-hander. Pedro Strop is the right-hander. 2-2 to Peralta. And a swing and a miss. He struck him out. Peralta chased that time. And Arrieta has strikeout number 8.
Comes back for the 2-0 count to punch out Peralta.
Here's Tommy Pham now with 1 away. Bases empty. Pham drove in a run with a ground out in the 4th inning. He's 0 for 2. Both of his outs on the ground. It's an RBI, gave the Cardinal the lead, and there's a strike. St. Louis has hit 6 home runs in this division series.
We knew when we walked in today, Joe, with the wind blowing like that, it's going to be a hard time. You think you're going to have 2-1, 3-2 game here.
What did we say? Might be 10-9.
Yeah.
In there. Called strike. 1-2 on Pham. Pitch count rising for Arrieta. Joe Madden was telling us in the game against the Pirates, felt like he came out with so much adrenaline, then got a little fatigued, got through that inning, and then was able to finish off the game in a complete game shutout. There's a swing and a miss, and Arrieta back-to-back strikeouts after the 2-run home run by Hayward. 2 outs now.
That's like coming back. You talk about Arrieta. He did not. That's the cutter that he's known for. A little punch out there. Back-to-back punch outs after the home run. That's huge.
And an interesting move here. So Arrieta coming off his 9th strikeout of the game. And Mike Matheny is going to remove Yadier Molina from the game. Brandon Moss will bat for Molina. So obviously Molina, who was paid a visit by the athletic trainer earlier, and that ball hits him. Moss is hit by a pitch. On the first pitch, Brandon Moss is hit. And the tying run is now on for the Cardinals in the 6th inning.
This hard cutter gets away from him, drills him at the top of the foot.
That was a front foot breaking ball. Got him.
Yeah.
It's a big news story with Molina coming out, though. That is the key piece to the St. Louis Cardinals. We talked about that in our opening game 1, and Molina's done for the night.
So is Arrieta.
Well, Joe Madden's on his way out. So Arrieta stalls in the 6th inning. A Hayward 2-run homer's made it a 1-run game. And what has been the most dominant pitcher in the second half of the season is walking out of this game. The booth presented by Esurance, proud partner of Major League Baseball. Brian Anderson, the Hall of Famer Dennis Eckersley, and Joe Simpson. And guys, this is a victory for the St. Louis Cardinals right now. They have chased Jake Arrieta. They're only down 1 run at.
To me, that's a shock. I mean, anytime a guy that had the kind of year that he's had, historic year, and he gives up the home run to Jason Hayward, he's the guy, the culprit of all this.
Absolutely, and 2 big home runs today, one from each side, that have really turned this momentum in this ball game around. And Hayward's the most recent, and the hit batter gets him out of there. But for the Cardinals, they've got to feel real good about themselves right now.
St. Louis with 4 on the board against Arrieta. Hayward with 2 hits, including the 2-run homer, and has set it up now. Clayton Richard is in the game for the Cubs. Lefty on lefty matchup with Colton Wong at the plate. Richard is another guy who used to be a starting pitcher, has found new life here in Chicago on the north side.
A moving fastball. He throws 80% fastballs, and then you see the ball cuts. Long-time starter. San Diego most of the time.
Involved in the Jake Peavy deal. Sending the Peavy away, and a jam shot right back to Richard, and that will do it for the Cardinals in the 6th inning. However, the J. Hay Kid, a 2-run bomb, and it's a 1-run game in Game 3. All right, Casey, thanks. Yeah, that was the most predictable outcome of the night right there. Chase Utley at Citi Field. We got a wild one here at Wrigley. This has been fun. Lead man up is Coughlin, pinch hitting. And on the first pitch, he delivers into right field with a single. So Bunch of changes here from both teams. The Cubs have a new battery. Madden counters with a left-handed bat off the bench, and Coughlin with a base hit. It's Tony Cruz now behind the plate. Molina is out. Pinch hit for last inning. And the new pitcher is Seth Maness, who is the third Cardinal pitcher used tonight.
He's the ground ball pitcher, been used a lot again this year. Not the big fastball, but you saw the sinker right there to Coughlin, and he hit in the hole.
Top of the order for Chicago. Dexter Fowler shows bunt, takes a ball. So both starters are out. Arrieta still in line for the win. Walker went 4 1/3 for the Cardinals. He's on the hook for the loss. 6 hits, 4 earned runs against Walker. Arrieta gives up 4 earned runs in 5 2/3 innings, and he finished with 9 strikeouts. Just to put that in perspective, Jake Arrieta had given up 4 earned runs in his last 13 starts.
97 innings.
And he gives up 4 earned runs here tonight in 5 2/3.
First time he didn't get through the 6th inning since June 16th.
Which was the last time he allowed 4 earned runs in a game. So the Cardinals do something tonight that hasn't been done in a long time, and they are right there in it on a hitter-friendly night at Wrigley Field. Look who's warming up for St. Louis. Adam Wainwright, who was fantastic in his Game 2 appearance. Struck out the side in his second inning. Ended up going an inning and 2/3 in that one. Cubs lead by 1 on the strength of a 3-run 5th. And those big bats are coming up in this inning. Coughlin with a pinch hit single. Cubs have 9 hits in this game already. All of their starting position players have at least 1 hit, with the exception of Fowler and Montero.
Coughlin leaning a little bit on that throw over. Got a little speed, 11 stolen bases.
Cardinals think Fowler's up there to bunt. Corners are in. He shows bunt, gets it down. That's a beauty. Going to be a tough one. Maness' throw, and it is in time. What a play by Seth Maness. And the speedy Fowler is cut down. It's a sacrifice bunt for Fowler, but that was a heck of a play by Maness.
That's a base hit just about every other time Dexter Fowler puts that one down. Terrific play by Maness.
Just planted and all in one motion threw over there. Better fastball than he throws to the plate.
You remember those days here, both you guys do, of Wrigley Field back when they had the crown, and how thick the infield grass was. You could lose a ball, like U.S. Open rough.
It would have stopped. You couldn't even get to it.
It's not the case anymore. It's a pretty fast track. And now Matheny's going to the home plate umpire to indicate a double switch here. So he wanted Maness in there for at least the switch hitter Fowler, and with the big muscle coming up, Mike Matheny's going to go to his big gun in the bullpen, and Adam Wainwright is on his way in. Maness faces 2 batters, gives up a single and a sac bunt, and Wainwright back on the stage. All right, thanks, Casey. A double switch here for Matheny. Grichuk will come into the game and play center field, and he will lead off for the Cardinals in the 7th inning. And Adam Wainwright is on the mound facing Jorge Soler, who swings and hammers deep into left center. Goodbye! Postseason for the ages already for Jorge Soler off of Adam Wainwright.
He's yet to make it out, right? I mean, he's been on base forever. Wainwright just tries to get a fastball, first pitch, and it gets back and tries to throw it on the corner. Leaks back over, and Soler, he is not waiting around. This ball is bridged out of here.
What a scene here at Wrigley Field. Look at Chris Bosio, the pitching coach. A curtain call for Soler. His second home run of this division series. On base for the 4th time tonight. This is an amazing run by Jorge Soler, Joe. 8 trips to the plate. He has not been retired.
And he's walked a lot. So it's not like he's been a free swinger the whole time, and tonight he goes up there and ambushes the first fastball he sees.
Last time up, he got a changeup he took for a strike, and then the threw fastball, he hit a bullet.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's in the zone.
What a play for Joe Madden. That was the big topic of discussion before the game as Bryant out in front, little roller to second base. That's Wong over there on that side of the infield, and he makes a play. Wow, that was a nice play by Colton Wong. Ranging far to his right, and there is out number 2 as Bryant is retired.
This is a nice play on the run by Wong. He's going to be across his body to throw this to Piscotty. He's got to get that ball there in a hurry. See him make the nice throw. Piscotty holds on to the bag, barely, bang, bang at first.
The good plays he made the other night in St. Louis were rangy plays like that. They were to his left. The mistakes he made were trying to turn the double play. He made a couple of bobbles.
Here's Anthony Rizzo now. It's the great thing about baseball, isn't it? You just never know in this game. Nothing is working out like you thought it would tonight. The Cardinals hitting Arrieta. Anybody hitting Arrieta. Wainwright comes in facing a rookie, and he sends one out of here to make it a 3-run lead again.
Wainwright faced 5 hitters in St. Louis and struck out 3 of them.
Rizzo batting with the bases empty and 2 outs. And a strike in there from Wainwright.
But he got ambushed. It's like Dennis said, that fastball leaked back over to the middle of the plate.
Well, his bread and butter is that hook, you know, and he comes in out of the bullpen just trying to throw a strike.
Rizzo, a dramatic homer in the 5th, and that one's high in the air in the infield, and it's going to be Peralta to make the play. Boy, we are finding out who's ready for the postseason. There's a new star on the horizon, Jorge Soler, 7-4 Cubs. Shaping up to be one to remember tonight. 7-4 Cubs. They lead top of the 7 at Wrigley Field. Our coverage of the 2015 NLDS is presented by T-Mobile. And don't forget our upcoming postseason TV schedule. You've got the Dodgers and the Mets right now on TNT. That game underway tomorrow. We're back in the National League for Game 4s. We know that'll happen. Cardinals, Cubs, Dodgers, Mets on TBS. And then they've got a couple of Game 5s coming up on FS1 on Wednesday. Blue Jays and the Royals headed back to their home venues. So for his efforts, Jorge Soler gets removed from the game. Chris Coughlin will stay in after his pinch hit single. He'll play right field. And Joe, the new pitcher is Trevor Cahill, who is coming off an 8-pitch performance in Game 2 with 7 strikes in those 8 pitches and a great setup role.
He was phenomenal and throwing hard. It was a hard sinker he had working. I saw him today and I reintroduced myself from the time he spent in Atlanta, and I said, what got into you? And he said, you know, the Dodgers sent me back to rookie ball, then to AAA before they released me. And one of the things I was able to rediscover was the touch on my changeup. He said, I've got a good feel for my changeup again, and he said, I'm throwing more strikes. And he said, novel idea, huh?
And it's a pretty familiar path, right? Release from the Braves, release from the Dodgers minor leagues, and then in the setup role or a late inning leverage role in a playoff series.
Oh, yeah, it's automatic.
It happens a lot.
But you look at his velocity, it's up too. I mean, he didn't throw like that. I mean, 94. He's a sinker, slider, little changeup.
Grichuk in his first at bat, he came in on the double switch last inning.
He also complimented Miguel Montero, the catcher who he worked with in Arizona. So some comfort level there too.
Looks like he's fired up tonight. He's overthrown a little bit.
Well, if you're the Cubs, those are show socks too. I believe those are Los Angeles Dodgers socks.
That's
if I'm not mistaken.
No, that's not a good.
Those must be good luck socks.
Yeah, they are. For a reminder.
A reminder. It's okay. Everybody's got their path. Grichuk a swing and a foul. It's possible that the Cubs tonight could use 3 pitchers to get to their closer. Rondon, guys that have been starters in the big leagues, have lost their way and then come back. Cahill, Clayton Richard has already pitched. Got the final out of the last inning, and of course Travis Wood sitting there as well, and he was great in Game 2.
That's why when you retool a bullpen, I mean, you never know when it's going to kick in. I mean, you get enough arms. Guys that have been around, you see Travis Wood, they're the same thing. Starter most of his career, and now he's found a home in the bullpen, and Madden loves him.
3-2 to Grichuk, and a swing and a miss. He struck him out. Cahill with his first out.
94
with a little dip. You see this fastball away. Look at the ball go down. He swings over the top of it. Little two-seamer rotating down. Beautiful thing. It's a strike if he takes it.
Grichuk has big power. Cahill able to get the strikeout for out number 1. Now back to the top of the order. Matt Carpenter. An 8-pitch at bat there against Grichuk for the strikeout. Cahill only threw 8 pitches in his 3-up, 3-down inning in the 8th inning of Game 2 and had 2 strikeouts. One of those strikeouts was to Carpenter. He struck him out looking. And a wave and a miss. 0-2 the count on Matt Carpenter.
When this guy left Atlanta, I thought, well, he's making a lot of money. He's not going to go hungry. But look at him.
He's really making a lot of money right now, at least for his future. Delivering in the postseason. 0-2 the count on Carpenter. And he takes low.
When he was a starter, he was like he a contact guy. You know, he'd go out there, right? A lot of ground balls, but it wouldn't take him long. Very efficient working starter.
Well, earlier this year, there was a lot of contact.
His numbers with the Braves, 15 games, had an ERA at 7.5. As a Carpenter swings and misses, down he goes again. second time Cahill's punched him out in this series.
He's featured everything. He just threw him a cameo changeup right there. You have to mix this. We've seen his curveball. We've seen sinkers. It's phenomenal. Look at this.
And it's right there.
Great look at the changeup grip, the circle change, and Carpenter is gone. Oh, beautiful look.
Ball's middle. He's so far out front.
And now it is Piscotty with 2 away. Jason Hayward looked like he turned the momentum of this game with a 2-run homer off Arrieta last inning to make it a 5-4 Cubs lead. As Piscotty delivers to right field, a base hit. And the Cardinal first baseman continues his hitting ways. A 2-out single, on base for the second time tonight. And that will get Holiday to the plate. Hey, a quick reminder here, you can follow every pitch of the postseason with MLB.com @BAT, the #1 app for live baseball. Stay connected, highlights, replay reviews, scores, pitch tracking, and the live radio broadcasts. Download the @BAT app today. 2 outs, Cubs lead by 3, 7th inning. And Holiday takes a ball and a snap throw to first.
Why is it always a ball in the dirt when he wants to make a snap throw? It's amazing.
Makes sense, though. If you're a base runner, anytime a ball goes in the dirt, what's your instinct, Joe? You're going to take a step?
You're going to break, yeah.
I thought he would throw that ball back to the screen.
Just looking at some of these numbers against Cahill in their career. Carpenter 5 for 11 coming into this series, and Holiday 4 for 12 with 3 homers.
Ooh.
They have big numbers, but they don't have much success so far. They're wondering the same thing we've been wondering.
Cahill version 2. And a swing and a miss. Holiday looking back to see if that ball disappeared. Those are the Chevy numbers for Holiday. Joe just mentioned 4 of his 4 hits, 3 of those homers. Two outs. And the 1-1 is high. 2 balls and a strike on Holiday. Trevor Cahill, 27 years of age, longtime starter, was a workhorse for the A's and the Diamondbacks. Was an all-star back in 2010, pitching for Oakland that year. Never pitched in the postseason until his outing in Game 2. Now appearance number 2. The 2-1 and a swing and a miss. 2-2 on Holiday.
That was just hardball right there. 2-1.
Like he's up too.
Yeah. Old-fashioned hardball. Just let it fly.
Good block by Montero. Cahill was a starter with the Diamondbacks, with Montero the primary catcher with Arizona for 3 seasons. We asked Joe Madden, was there any discussion about Cahill with Montero? He said, nope, not that I'm aware of. They just took a flyer on a guy, and it ends up working out. And he's giving them some big outs in the postseason. Runner goes. Holiday gets jammed. Ground ball to Baez. And a low throw, and Rizzo cannot make the play. So Baez very nonchalant with that throw to first. And a throwing error opens the door for the Cardinals, and Jason Hayward is coming up.
That was a lazy play there. He was throwing on the run, and he had time to plant and throw against a slow runner. Threw a sinker over there, and as good as Rizzo is, he couldn't handle that one. That was very nonchalant, Brian.
Baez, a very good defender, but not here when the Cubs needed it most to make a routine play. And that's going to be the end of the line for Trevor Cahill, and the Cardinals will bring the tying run to the plate. We got a pitching change at Wrigley. Jason Hayward is coming up. All right, Casey, thanks. There you see Travis Wood. He's the left-hander out of Joe Madden's bullpen. And he's coming on to face Jason Hayward. A very costly error by Javier Baez has kept the door open for St. Louis. Travis Wood was outstanding in 2 1/3 scoreless innings. Only 1 hit allowed in game 2.
That 1 hit, I think, was the last batter he faced.
Hayward has done damage tonight. And a double in the second, hit a 2-run home run in the 6th. And he swings and a liner to left field. Right there, Schwarber. 1 pitch. Wood gets out of it. And nobody breathes deeper than Javier Baez. 7-4 Cubs. Stretch time is over here at Wrigley Field, heading to the bottom of the 7th inning. Cubs lead by 3, and our aerial coverage tonight, the beautiful images from up above provided by Goodyear. Goodyear, more driven. Lights are up at Wrigley. And the Cubs are coming up bottom 7. Starlin Castro will face Adam Wainwright, who surrendered a 2-run home run to Jorge Soler last inning. And Wainwright begins an inning fresh, and strike 1 to the Cubs second baseman Castro. Wainwright made 3 appearances out of the bullpen at the end of the regular season, and his first postseason appearance in game 2 since 2006, when he was on the mound for 2 clinchers, the LCS and the World Series clincher. He was the man on the mound when it ended, and now he's back in that role here 9 years later, recovering from Achilles surgery. Nobody thought he'd make it by the end of the season, and he made it with 3 games left, and here he is in a prominent role out of the Cardinal bullpen.
A medical marvel.
Starlin Castro has hit a big home run tonight. Game tire in the 4th. And a fly ball, the wind really pushing that one, and it will end up in the seats. Give you some of the StatCast information. That home run by Castro, who launched one way out of here, 414 feet. Exit velocity over 100 miles an hour. And that made it a 2-2 ball game.
For me, that was probably the biggest blow of the game because
Me too.
it really just turned things around.
And it was on an off-speed pitch that he hit 414 feet.
That was a first pitch breaking ball from Waka in that fourth inning. See what Wainwright has in mind for him. And a 1-2 is down and away.
This Cubs team, we talked about them in the first game. They were a weird club. They led the league in strikeouts as hitters, and they led the league in walks. And that was the first combination of those categories since the '78 Cincinnati Reds.
And a big home run hitting club as well, as Castro delivers to right, a single. Starlin Castro is hitting well. And one of the great things about Wrigley Field is the seventh inning stretch and take me out to the ball game. And normally those who occupy this booth coordinate that, but tonight they had video of the great Ernie Banks from years past. What a moment here. It was a really cool moment. Ernie Banks passed away in January of this season as Kyle Schwarber takes a ball. He was 83 years of age. And I do want to say this about the folks at Busch Stadium. So the two seventh inning stretches they had at Busch Stadium in this series, they played a tape of Jack Buck singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" from Wrigley Field. So there's a little symmetry here between the two organizations and two icons of the organizations, Jack Buck and Ernie Banks.
Both wonderful. Great jobs by both ballparks.
Mike Matheny with Adam Wainwright on the mound, and the rookie Schwarber at the plate. Has a homer and a walk tonight. Cubs get a lead man on with a Castro single.
Now remember, with Molina out of the game, obviously his thumb was too painful to continue. They're only carrying two catchers. So Tony Cruz back there is there for the duration, and the Cardinals holding their breath, making sure, hoping nothing happens to him.
And if they say their third catcher was Mark Reynolds,
yeah,
didn't they say that?
That's what they said. Mike Matheny said that's not something we talk about, but then he winked and said Mark Reynolds. So you might not see a pinch hit appearance by Mark Reynolds in this game. Matheny communicating with Molina. Those two are in constant sync. And Matheny praises Molina, or rather Cruz and Molina, his two catchers. And Cruz and Molina praise Matheny for his ability to still think like a catcher throughout a game. Cruz, very capable catcher, got a lot of playing time when Molina was out. And out in September.
Outstanding arm.
A big swing and a miss by Schwarber. There are two rookies starring in this postseason, or have a chance to star in this postseason, that are from the 14 draft. Kyle Schwarber was the fourth pick, and Michael Conforto of the Mets. Hard to believe you make it to the big leagues that quickly. Just one season essentially on the calendar. That draft is not until June.
And contribute the way those two guys have.
Threw a fastball by him 2-1. Now he's back to 3-2. Be careful with that fastball here, I think. I'd be surprised if he hooked him.
Wainwright working the corners. Full count. Schwarber takes a called strike three. Wainwright with his signature pitch and a punch out of Kyle Schwarber for the first out.
You just sort of tip your hat right here. 3-2 curveball down and in. See the fastball when he was behind the count before, not this time.
Takes his index finger off the baseball as he's throwing that curveball, and it's one of the better breaking balls in the game.
Like I said, his arm feels strong. Had to rebuild the legs from the Achilles up. Had to rebuild his lower body and his core strength during that comeback, but did so. And Joe went to extreme measures too to make sure he could try to get back this year if the Cardinals made it into the postseason, which it looked like they were from mid-April.
He was telling me about a treadmill that takes weight off of you as you're on the treadmill, where you only have to use 50% body weight, 75% body weight. That was really instrumental in building up and keeping his leg strength where it was. But anybody that's ever had a torn Achilles, I know they're shaking their heads because it's amazing. He had the surgery, I think it was May 3rd or May 4th, to reattach it.
April 25th was his last outing. He injured that Achilles while at the plate while running to first base.
He sat around 1 year after the Tommy John surgery and watched the team win the World Series.
Baez takes a strike. I wonder what was going through the mind and the heart of Javier Baez after that error. You can stomach errors, but in the postseason, when you're just being a little nonchalant with the baseball, those can jump up and bite you. Just ask the Cardinals from game 2. There's a ground ball. Oh, and it hits Castro. And there will be an out on the base runner there. Castro makes contact with the baseball. Baez will reach first, but Castro is out, and the second out of the inning. And instead of first and third and one away, the Cubs run into another mistake.
That was terrible right there. You cannot run into that. I don't know. See, he must have not got a good look at it. He just sort of ran into it, tried to jump out of the way, got him in the back heel.
Wasn't hit that hard.
No, it's like you've got to stop one way or another and read that thing. Big break for the Cardinals right there. That's a base hit to right field.
It was.
It's one of those rare box score entries where the second baseman gets a put out. It's 4 unassisted. He's the closest fielder, but Baez gets a hit out of it. But instead of first and third and one away, 2 outs, runner at first. And the batter is Montero. A foul ball. Cub dugout looking out of Montero. Did that hit you? He said no, foul ball. No balls and a strike. Cubs have made some mistakes tonight. They had a base running mistake early. Soler got caught off the bag on a soft line drive to the shortstop and snuffed out a first inning rally. Baez with the throwing error last inning didn't hurt him. And now Castro with a base running error. Hit on the knuckles again. 0-2 the count on Montero.
And Wainwright's never been a guy that was like a hard thrower 95, even though he's such a big guy. He's always had great control, little cutter, bread and butter curveball, paint with the best of them.
And a workhorse. That's got to be a test on that left ankle and Achilles to do that spin move to first base.
Nobody's bunted on Wainwright yet since he's come back, even in the 3 games in the regular season. As Montero fouls one off. But there was enough Cardinal propaganda sent out there about a simulated game that he was involved in where they did all kind of bunting drills against him to make him field plays and make him run to first, the PFP plays. So I think there was enough out there, enough video anyway, that folks who aren't comfortable bunting aren't going to just do it to see if Wainwright's okay. That would be risky. And a swing and a miss. So Wainwright strikes out Montero. Base running blunder for the Cubs. And we are headed to the 8th inning. 7-4. Mr. Cub. He's all smiles watching this one so far.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent.
Back at Wrigley Field, Chicago. Changes for the Cubs. Joe Madden will tighten up his outfield defense. Austin Jackson is now in right field. That moves Coughlin to left. And the new pitcher is Pedro Strop. First offering to Peralta. Strike one. Strop anxious to get back on the mound. His game one appearance gave up a home run in that one. 2/3 of an inning.
Throws hard, mid to sometimes upper 90s. Breaking ball that he occasionally will loop, get out around it.
Johnny Peralta starts it for St. Louis. Pitcher spot is due up next.
Looked like he canned his slider. He was going to the fastball tonight.
He has had zero luck at Busch Stadium.
And a quick release, and Peralta fouls it away. Strop does that every now and then.
Which I think is kind of tired, but nowadays they do what you have to do, I guess.
You know who does that a lot? LaTroy Hawkins.
He's over in his 40s, so what are you going to do?
Whatever it takes, man. See what he does. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And a swing and a miss. Good slider by Pedro Strop. Out number 1 gives us a chance to hear from Casey Stern once again in Atlanta. right, thanks for that update, Casey. Here at Wrigley, we're in the top of the 8th. St. Louis down 3, and the pinch hitter is Greg Garcia. Batting in the 6th spot in the Chicago batting order, which was occupied by Wainwright after the double switch. Garcia, utility infielder. Mike Matheny choosing Garcia over Pete Kozma for this postseason roster. Tony Cruz is on deck. And Strop skips one in there at 95. 2 balls and a strike on Garcia.
Garcia, the grandson of one of the great guys in baseball, Dave Garcia. He's a long-time manager, scout, coach of mine back when I was a rookie a zillion years ago. Great man.
2 balls and a strike. And that's in there. Fastball. 2-2 the count.
You can see how important Strop can be when he throws strikes. He's got electric arm, 95 with a biting slider, but he can lose the strike zone.
Crowd is up. 2-strike pitch is low. Garcia, good take there. And sends the count full 3-2. Cardinals have had great success in this series with their pinch hitters. 2 for 5. The 2 hits have been homers. Also had a walk in that group. Payoff pitch coming. Garcia stays alive. It's going to be a fun series for Greg Garcia and Colton Wong as well. They were teammates at University of Hawaii. And they have actually been teammates at every level coming up through the Cardinals system as well. And now they're teammates in the big leagues. 6 straight years.
That's unusual.
They've been together from the island. Garcia gets his moment here, down 3. And he swings a hard hit ball. Nice play, Rizzo. Backhand stab. Strop is there. And out number 2. And Anthony Rizzo with a gem for the 2nd out of the inning.
How about that pick? I mean, that is a serious pick. Breaking ball to Garcia. He hits a bullet 1-hop backhand by Rizzo. Look at step. I mean, look at this pick. It looks like nothing. That is serious. That ball came up, stayed with it.
Great play on an in-between hop, too.
Rizzo with that great production offensively, but he is an outstanding defensive first baseman. And showed his wares right there. 2 up, 2 down. Strop got away with a hanging slider there to Garcia. And instead of Yadier Molina, it's going to be Tony Cruz, his first at bat. Mike Matheny pinch hit for Molina in the 6th inning. What we have to assume is that thumb injury sparking up again. 0-2 the count on Cruz. Tried that quick release again. Don't call it a quick pitch. A quick pitch is illegal, but it's a quick release. You can only do it with the bases empty.
That's where I don't want to be the catcher. With 2 strikes, you got to block the ball, because otherwise, if he swings, he has a chance to go to first. So about a 55-footer, you got to figure out a way to block it.
You don't know when he's going to do it either.
No, thank you.
He's going to the slider here. 1 ball, 2 strikes, and a ground ball, chopper foul. Tony Cruz hangs in there. Pedro Strop. He came with Arrieta to the Cubs from the Orioles back in 13. Has emerged as a late inning reliever for the Cubs this season. Another quick release and a swing and a foul. Cruz was ready for it that time. Cubs took the lead with a 3-run 5th inning. They have not looked back. They got to a 1-run game before Jorge Soler hit a 2-run homer off Wainwright in the 6th. And Strop, a called strike 3. Pedro Strop strikes out Cruz to end the inning, and the Cubs 3 defensive outs away from a Game 3 win. Wrigley Field, Chicago. Game 3 of the National League Division Series. New pitcher for St. Louis. Jonathan Broxton is in. Chris Coughlin batting for the second time. Came in a pinch hit appearance in the 6th inning, had a single. And the numbers for Jonathan Broxton, who appears for the second time in the series. Those are his regular season numbers. Worked a scoreless inning. And that Game 2 win for Chicago on Saturday.
Not quite the same guy that he used to be. He used to be a guy who threw 98 miles an hour, not quite as hard anymore.
See his uniform whipping around too. It's still blowing hard here, as it has all night.
Now the wind blowing out towards right field. The Cubs have 5 home runs in this game. They have tied a Major League postseason record, and it's interesting, Joe, that Dennis Eckersley has been a part of 2 of those.
I didn't give up the 5.
No. That was your team. I mean,
right,
your
right.
team.
Right.
The '84 Cubs and the '89 Oakland A's.
Yeah, kind of weird. That was the Earthquake series, one of the games against the Giants. after the earthquake. I think we came back and hit 5, big scoring, a lot of runs in that series.
The first team to hit 5 homers in a game in the postseason was the 28 Yankees, who did it in the World Series, of course, against St. Louis. Babe Ruth hit 3 of the 5. And then the 04 Cardinals and the 05 White Sox are the other 2 teams, as Coughlin, a wave and a miss, down he goes on strikes. Well, the Chicago Cubs building of a roster, maybe arriving a year earlier than many thought, but you got to give a lot of credit to their front office as well. Theo Epstein. Oh, I get it. He's got the Einstein look there. Nice. Theo Epstein, the president of the Cubs, Jed Hoyer, his general manager, and all of these great young players. It does take a lot of losses to be able to acquire players like Chris Bryant. It takes a lot of money to be able to sign players like John Lester, and the foresight to hire Joe Maddon might be the biggest of all the moves that he's made.
I would agree with that too. With that deal they made last year with the A's, sending Samardzija, who was closing in on free agency, Samardzija and Hamilton for Addison Russell.
Dexter Fowler takes a strike.
Everybody knew that when Epstein came over here, something was going to get done. He knows what he's doing. He did it in Boston, and he had a plan. And the plan, is, like you said, is maybe early a year, but they've got money. The combination is lethal. And you look around and see where they're going. They could make a run at the guard of the National League Central for a while.
They won 97 games this year and finished in 3rd place in their own division. Cardinals won 100. The Pirates won 98. As Fowler, a swing and a miss. And the count at 2-2.
Things can only be accelerated, in my opinion, when you're thinking about projecting about they're a year ahead of schedule, by ability. Because these guys have shown that they are players despite their age and inexperience.
And you get to hang out with Eddie Vedder when you're an executive with the Chicago Cubs, and that's probably the coolest thing. Fowler fouls it off. Lead singer of Pearl Jam is a big Cubs fan, was in the clubhouse.
There he is.
For the wild card win. I was talking to David Ross, the Cubs backup catcher. He said the 2 biggest celebrations he's ever had were with the Cubs, and he walked into the clubhouse in Pittsburgh, and there's Eddie Vedder. And Ross was a part of a World Series winning team in Boston as well. Matt Weiner, a big Pearl Jam fan. He's coming in on Eddie Vedder. What do you got, Matt?
Absolutely, and I upped my cool factor significantly by speaking to Eddie the other day in Pittsburgh in the wild card game. He's not just here as a Johnny-come-lately to hang out with Theo. He's a long-term Cubs fan. He told me at his first game, as Fowler perhaps goes deep here.
Yeah, Hayward looking up, and it's gone. A home run for Dexter Fowler. That is a major league record. 6 home runs in a postseason game. Dexter Fowler with his 2nd postseason home run, and the Cubs are up 8-4.
I knew the ball was jumping tonight, but that's ridiculous. 6 home runs. Gets a slider inside. He just lifts it right out of here. See the slider? He sort of left it right there, spinning. He got this thing in the air, and that's all you have to do, and that ball carries out of it.
Austin Jackson now batting for the first time in the spot of Soler. Boy, what a moment there. I can't remember if Matt finished the story or not, but I was really into it. Fowler with a mock curtain call there.
I didn't get to pay that off.
we got to get that story in. The way the ball's flying out here tonight for the Cubs, it's tough. All right, Matt, here's your chance. It's a foul ball.
The end is pretty good because he said he remembered his first game at Wrigley Field. He saw Roberto Clemente hit a home run.
Nice. Well, we saw Geddy Lee in Toronto, and rock stars want to be athletes and vice versa. Austin Jackson, his first at bat of the night. And that one is upstairs.
The first 6 hitters in this lineup have home runs. It's hard to do. 1 through 6. Incredible.
The 6 home runs is a postseason record. Our friends at Elias tell us that it's the first time in over 20,000 Cubs games 2 through 6 in the order have all homered, and now 1 through 6 in the order. That's a lot of Cubs games. Just seeing things tonight that we have not seen. Fowler has hit 2 postseason homers. He had a big one in Pittsburgh as well.
And there have been some home runs since tonight that were not wind aided. I can't say that there weren't 1 or 2 that were helped, but there have been some rockets hit.
One and 2 on Jackson.
Every Cardinals pitcher has given up a homer except for Menas.
Dexter Fowler, the 6th of that group. And with the wind blowing out like it is, I would imagine that the ball he hit in St. Louis was hit much harder than that one. And Eddie Vedder says, yes, sir. They're having some fun at Wrigley Field tonight. Chance to go up 2 games to 1 in his best of 5. It makes tomorrow an elimination game if the Cubs can hang on to win this one. It's going to be an elimination game for someone anyway.
One game here left, another inning, I know, but then the question being, who's going to start game 4 for St. Louis tomorrow?
One out. Here's a 3-2 to Jackson. He walks. And the inning continues. A man on with 1 away. A run is in. Let's check in with Casey Stern. Electric atmosphere there in New York. First postseason game at Citi Field. Here's Bryant now. Jackson broke, then stopped, and Bryant takes the ball inside. Chris Bryant has come alive in this game 3. Had a single in the first inning that snapped an 0 for 11 in the postseason, and then a 2-run home run broke a 2-2 tie. And the Cubs have not trailed since. It was a no-doubter. We have had a number of 400-foot-plus home runs tonight. Jake Arrieta still in line for the win. Left with a lead in the 6th inning, 5 2/3 tonight. And those are the numbers for the dynamic duo, Bryant and Rizzo. 0 for 21 tonight, 2 bombs and 3 hits combined. Strike. 1-1.
Austin Jackson bluffing over there. If I'm Bryant, I want him to either go or calm down, because it can be distracting to a right-handed hitter, especially out of the corner of your eye.
And he goes. And Bryant takes a ball, throw to second from Cruz, right on the bag, in time for the out. Tony Cruz guns down Jackson, and a caught stealing for out number 2.
I thought he had no chance to throw him out. He got a good jump. Like you said, what an arm Cruz has. Look at this thing. This release, bang, bang, right on the bag. Good slap tag. He looks back, probably cost them a little bit of time, but what a great throw, great tag.
Clearly out. And now Bryant takes a strike. And Chris Bryant in a 2-2 count in a long inning for Broxton. 24 pitches already. Home run by Fowler. And down he goes. A strikeout to end the inning. But the Cubs make postseason history. 6 home runs tonight for the Chicago Cubs. And it's Dexter Fowler who gives them an 8-4 lead. Our coverage of the 2015 NLDS on TBS is presented by T-Mobile. It is 8-4. The Cubs have a lead at Wrigley Field. Game 3. And the Cubs are 3 outs away from a victory and a chance to advance tomorrow. Hector Rondon is on the mound. He is their closer. It's not a save situation. He's on to try to get the final 3 outs. Colton Wong leads off for St. Louis. A little jam shot out to Baez. And that one is there in time for out number 1. It has been a game where the Cubs have hit 6 home runs, setting a major league record. As you see the numbers during the regular season for Rondon. He got a save in game 2. The 30 saves this year has given the Cubs that force at the end their bullpen that Madden's been looking for down the stretch.
Which you've got to have. He's got a lot of weapons down there, but this is his main man.
Cardinals bullpen did a great job in game 2 of keeping the game close and giving their offense an opportunity. Tonight, after Hayward hit the homer, it was only a 1-run game. Their bullpen couldn't contain him. Cubs blew it open.
Randall Grichuk fouls it away, and it's quickly 0-2. That was a much different scene here in the 6th inning when Hayward went deep off Arrieta. Arrieta gave up 4. He's in line for the W.
That's the kind of year that he's having. Doesn't have a good start, and he's still got a W.
0-2 pitch. Down and away. Arrieta was taken out. in that 6th inning. And the Cubs even working around an error. Travis Wood came on to get the final out of the 7th. Stroke a scoreless 8th. And now Rondon. 1-2 pitch. In the hole, backhanded Baez, and he drops the ball. Boy, Javier Baez.
Rough night.
I mean, it would have been a tough play. Grichuk runs well, but Baez, uncharacteristic here tonight. He's already committed an error. And now Grichuk is aboard with 1 away.
Yeah, they scored a base hit.
I think he was just a little bit excited to get that exchange and show off his arm. Stumbled with taking it out of the glove.
Addison Russell had to come out of the game after he tripled back in the 4th inning. The starting shortstop had to leave with a hamstring injury. That'll be down there. We'll follow all of that up after the game. Could be a story, though, if the Cubs don't have their starting shortstop tomorrow. Here's Matt Carpenter now. And Grichuk takes off. That is a called strike. Defensive indifference allowing Grichuk to second base.
The part of the order, that quick strike part of the Cardinal order, though. Anytime you get a guy on base, you feel like it's a rally in the postseason.
Piscotty next, and then Matt Holliday. And then if the inning stays alive, it'll be Jason Hayward. 0-2 the count on Carpenter.
That ball was hot downstairs, sinking hard. Major velocity down there.
27.
Rondon's been on a great run down the stretch for the Cubs. No earned runs. 21 of his last 23 games. A former Rule 5 draft pick. No balls, 2 strikes. And a fly ball into left field. That's Coughlin, or rather Denorfia out there, just came into the game. And out number 2. Cubs are an out away from moving into a potential clincher tomorrow night. Mike Matheny would not commit to a Game 4 starter before the game. I asked him if Lance Lynn was in play. He nodded his head yes. Asked him if John Lackey was in play. He nodded his head yes.
He even faked you out saying Garcia's in play.
You wonder.
Yes.
Lackey was outstanding in Game 1, and he is a big game pitcher. 2 outs. Here's Piscotty.
I know who it would be for me. Who you got, Joe? Lackey.
I'm with you.
You got to win tomorrow to even think about Game 5. There is no Game 5 unless you run your best guy out there.
On the other side, Joe Madden all along has said Jason Hamill is his guy, regardless. Hamill gets the Game 4 start. Swinging a foul.
Well, that's obviously not going to change. But the Lackey thing, that's a tough one. It really is. I mean, if you don't win tomorrow, it just looks so bad if you didn't go to him. But
he knows his club a whole lot better than I do. And the trust factor he would have with one of the guys other than Lackey, we'll see.
Lackey beat Lester in that 4-0 Game 1 win. Only threw 86 pitches in that game, remember.
That plays to it a little bit.
High fly ball to right. The wind blowing out. Jackson out of room. And Piscotty with a 2-run homer. And the Cardinals are still alive. It's a 2-run game as Stephen Piscotty does it again.
Quick strike, part of their lineup.
We're talking about who's going to pitch Game 4. We've still got a ball game now.
2-out, 2-run home run by Stephen Piscotty has made it a 2-run Cardinal deficit.
You got to be happy for that kid. 2 hits and a walk tonight. He got taken out on a pop fly that he caught in foul territory.
So how far that ball went out. Fastball up out over the plate. That kid's got power both ways.
Here's a ground ball coming in. Starlin Castro, and that's a ball game. The Cubs win. The Cubs win Game 3 and a chance to advance with a win tomorrow. Jake Arrieta wins it. He beats Michael Wacha and the Cubs set a postseason record with 6 home runs. Our final score, Cubs 8, Cardinals 6. Coming up next, it's Game 3 between the Mets and the Dodgers. For Dennis Eckersley and Joe Simpson and Matt Weiner, I'm Brian Anderson. So long from Wrigley Field. Now let's send it to Ernie Johnson in New York.